Ever since childhood, Han Jungmin had dreamed of becoming an adventurer. He worked tirelessly toward that goal, immersing himself in countless books to master the intricacies of mana and mutations. His dedication paid off when he earned admission to a prestigious adventurer academy, an institution reserved for the most elite candidates. But fate had other plans. Jungmin soon discovered that, as an ordinary person, he faced limitations he simply couldn't overcome. Eventually, he took a leave of absence from the academy and secluded himself in his dorm room, finding escape in writing novels. Disheartened yet imaginative, he poured his soul into the fantasy worlds he created, until one night, an unknown system chose his novel to merge with reality due to its impeccably crafted setting. The next morning, Jungmin awoke to find his fictional world becoming real. However, he wasn't the protagonist, just a side character. Even so, something extraordinary had changed. He had awakened a unique ability that allowed him to borrow anyone's skills. Filled with new hope, he vowed not to abandon his dream and prepared to face the ultimate test, defeating the Demon King he had unknowingly written into existence. Lots of towers suddenly appeared around the world on a seemingly random day, catching everyone off guard. The towers felt eerily similar to those mentioned in ancient mythology, as reported by the few who encountered them. People speculated that someone had brought those old legends into the modern world, hoping they might meet the legendary heroes they had only read about in scriptures. Instead, what followed was worldwide disaster. Dungeons and monsters began emerging around the towers, wreaking havoc everywhere. In response, people started fighting back against these unknown threats. They explored the towers and cleared the dungeons to prevent further destruction. These brave individuals soon became famously known as dungeon adventurers. A boy sat in front of his TV, completely captivated by their stories. He found them fascinating, like admiring how they saved lives and became widely celebrated for their power. Inspired, he made a vow to begin his own adventure one day. From childhood to adolescence and into adulthood, he dedicated himself to that dream. He studied relentlessly, gaining a deep understanding of mana and mutation by reading nearly every book available on the subject in his country. Eventually, he qualified to enroll in the prestigious Adventurer Academy, which only accepted individuals of elite status. He felt immense joy when he saw his name, Jungmin, listed at the top of the leaderboard for the written exam, ecstatic that he was finally close to achieving his dream. Tears welled in his eyes from sheer happiness. Unfortunately, becoming a dungeon adventurer turned out to be nothing like he had imagined. The challenges were overwhelming. During the first semester of his second year, his rank plummeted to 24. Jungmin discovered limitations he couldn't overcome as an ordinary person. No amount of training allowed his body to keep pace with his sharp mind, and he realized he lacked a unique ability, something every top adventurer possessed. Devastated, he took a leave of absence from the academy and spent his days isolated in his dorm room, struggling to cope with his crushed dream. That was 2 years ago. Now Jungmin sits at his laptop writing fictional stories. The pain of his failure shows in the heavy bags under his listless eyes. Disillusioned, he finds comfort in the worlds he creates. His current story features a swordsman who slices the horizon, a hunter surviving in a forest of death, and the creator of magic. As Jungmin writes the final chapter, a wave of disappointment hits him. He doesn't want the story to end. To delay the inevitable, he decides to take a nap. As he drifts off, contemplating how to conclude the tale, his laptop quietly displays a message. The story is being completed. Meanwhile, his TV shows a news report. Korea's only divine adventurer, Rachel, has returned from a mission in the US. Thanks to her efforts, most of the towers have been cleared, and the world is inching closer to peace. Jungmin is impressed by Rachel's accomplishments at such a young age, but the admiration is tainted by a bitter reflection on his own shortcomings. Frustrated and exhausted, he buries his face in his pillow. Soon, he falls asleep. As Jungmin sleeps, his laptop begins receiving a series of notifications. Somewhere in the world, an unknown system searches for data to create a new tower and somehow identifies Jungmin's novel as the perfect setting. The world processes a tower based on his story, and it materializes in a random location. The next morning, Jungmin is jolted awake by the loud voice of a news reporter. He had forgotten to turn off the TV the night before. Groggy and confused, he hears breaking news about 5 new towers suddenly appearing in Korea. To his shock, the towers bear the same names as the stories in his novel: the sword that cuts the horizon, executor of evil, and the black divine sphere. Jungmin freezes as the names register. He scrambles to check his laptop, desperate to confirm the connection, only to find that every document related to his novels is gone, even the one hidden deep in the root directory. Dropping to his knees, he trembles in disbelief. The reporter announces that the government will address the crisis later that evening, emphasizing the urgency of stabilizing the dungeons. Still in a daze, Jungmin watches as a bright blue screen pops up in front of him. It informs him that his novel, Age of Destruction, has been selected by the world as the basis for a new tower. Jungmin is hit with a whirlwind of emotions, petrified, dumbfounded, and overwhelmed. At first, he believes his work has been plagiarized. Then it dawns on him: he may have unknowingly caused a global catastrophe. The screen updates again, assigning him a new identity: author of the story, owner of the 7 towers, and possessor of the unique ability known as immersion. He stares at the screen, stunned by the chaos his imagination has unleashed. His missing novel files had somehow transformed into actual towers, complete with characters bearing the same names as in his stories, just as the news had reported. There were many things to unpack, but Jungmin's focus locked onto the unique ability listed under his name. He had been assigned a soul class, immersion, a power exclusive to him. Jungmin was shocked to learn such an ability even existed, especially for someone like him, a self-proclaimed failure who had already given up on becoming an adventurer. Yet, the idea of having a unique skill brought a rare smile to his face. For a moment, it gave him a glimmer of hope, that maybe, just maybe, he could still become an attacker. But as with most things in his life, this too turned out to be a disappointment. The world seemed determined to take him on a never-ending emotional roller coaster. The Jungmin sat alone in his room, completely drunk and defeated after days of failure. He had tried over 1,000 times to activate his ability, but every attempt ended in rejection. The system denied him repeatedly, each time delivering the same message: immersion failed. The object he tried to connect with wasn't a real person, or he was too far from the target. His chaotic emotions only made things worse, preventing the system from recognizing a valid reason to allow the skill to activate under its strict conditions. Frustrated, he screamed into the void and finally gave up. Resigned, he decided to buy more beer, convincing himself that this soul class ability was just as useless as he was. At the grocery store, he stood in front of the food aisle, absent-mindedly staring at canned meals, while contemplating the various elements required for immersion: emotions, values, thoughts, test scores, MBTI types, wishes, and even love. Determined to make sense of it all, he mentally set a new goal. Just as he reached for a cart of food, a familiar voice called out to him. It was Saren, a former classmate and neighbor. Her full name was Lee Saren, and she possessed the rare ability called Eyes World. He had once tutored her at her mother's request. She had also been his junior at the academy, but like him, she had taken a sudden leave of absence shortly after enrolling. In the past, he had avoided interacting with her, worried she might have heard that rumor about him. Saren greeted him cheerfully, but her smile quickly faded as she took in his disheveled appearance. Disgusted by the sight of her once brilliant tutor reduced to a public drunk, she asked if he had eaten. She advised him to eat real food instead of surviving on canned meals. He shifted the conversation to her life at the academy. Though she frowned at his deflection, she answered politely, saying things were going well. Out of curiosity, she brought up his former fame at the academy, reminding him of the time he had received an offer to become an analyst for the Heavenly Mansion Guild, one of the top 3 guilds in the country. It was a position most students only dreamed of. Yet he had famously turned it down, and she was surprised people still remembered. The Jungmin couldn't help but wonder why she brought it up. He disliked talking about it, and when Saren asked why he had turned down the offer, he quickly shut down the conversation and focused on finishing his grocery shopping. He believed the world of adventurers no longer belonged to him, but the world had other plans. Just as he moved away from the aisle, he suddenly sensed a strange energy, one that only someone in the class of original author could perceive. Turning toward the source, he spotted a demon follower radiating ominous energy. He froze, confused and afraid. What was a creature like that doing in a grocery store? Saren noticed his uneasy expression and asked what was wrong, but before he could answer, the demon follower collapsed. From the fallen man's body, dark black rays spread across the floor, forming a portal. From the swirling void emerged two horned wolves, bloody, monstrous things exuding hunger and malice, as if eager to devour the world. Panic erupted as the wolves attacked the nearby shoppers, spreading chaos. The Jungmin recognized them immediately. These beasts were tied to the demon-worshipping cult, a fanatical group from his novel Enemies of the Seven Heroes he had once created. Saren quickly assessed the situation and jumped into action, urging him to help. But she soon realized he still hadn't awakened an active ability. Even so, the Jungmin summoned his courage and volunteered to act as bait, distracting the wolves so Saren could lead civilians to safety. With the wolves closing in, he had no choice but to dodge. One lunged at him, and though he barely avoided a direct hit, its fangs grazed his face, tearing a deep wound. Enduring the pain, he scrambled for a weapon and grabbed a metal signpost, the closest thing to a spear. Unfortunately, it crumpled beneath the wolf's powerful strike. As he struggled to block another attack, desperation took hold. He wished, more than anything, for his immersion ability to activate. In a sudden shift, the system finally responded. Drawing from the extensive lore of his own novel, the Jungmin realized what the ability truly did. It allowed him to channel the very essence of the stories he had written. He focused his mind and attempted to summon the power of the strongest swordsman, the one whose blade could cut through the horizon. However, the system warned that his current power level was too low to handle such a powerful ability, and that using it would almost certainly kill him. Undeterred by the risk, the Jungmin tried again, this time selecting a character from his novel whose strength was only twice his own. The system finally activated immersion, transforming him into a more confident version of that character. Armed with newfound resolve, the Jungmin took a battle stance, gripping the metal sign pole like a proper weapon. For the first time, he was ready to face the wolves. Thus began the reluctant adventurer's journey as the protagonist of his own story. The towers were born from stories and records of human history. For example, a tower based on Greek mythology would revolve around Hercules. This is recreating his entire life. Similarly, the heroes from the Jungmin's novels had become tower owners, and everyone associated with them, whether main or side characters, now existed within this reality. In the chaos of battle, the Jungmin chose to immerse himself in a minor side character named Soldier Melon. Melon was merely a gate guard who hadn't even been given a name in the original draft. His only role had been to hold off a horde of enemies with minimal strength, and that's where his story had ended. But as the author, the Jungmin knew far more about Melon than what had been written. That deeper understanding allowed the immersion to succeed. The lone bloody wolf lunged at him with murderous intent. But with conviction and the power granted by immersion, the Jungmin countered with a swift chain of strikes. Caught off guard, the beast was tossed about like a rag doll. With each clean hit, the Jungmin's confidence grew, his eyes filled with sharp focus and restrained fury. His grasp of spear combat and battle instincts sharpened rapidly. For a moment, he even displayed advanced movement, wielding the makeshift polearm with the grace of a trained knight. With a final, precise thrust to the wolf's stomach, he ended its life. Seeing its packmate's blood stain the floor, the second wolf hesitated. Its hunger faded, replaced by fear. The other bloodthirsty wolves nearby also began to retreat, unwilling to face the man who had suddenly become so dangerous. But they didn't get far. The Jungmin, now fully awakened to his immersion ability, wasn't letting them escape. Channeling perfect form, he hurled the metal sign pole like an Olympic javelin. It pierced one of the retreating wolves cleanly, killing it on the spot. Meanwhile, Saren used her unique ability, Ice World, to freeze several wolves with a single area of effect attack, locking them in place. As the chaos died down, she paused to catch her breath, relieved that the situation was under control. Turning her focus to the civilians, she began checking on their safety and preparing to evacuate them to a secure location. Though she had assumed the Jungmin didn't have a unique ability, she figured that, as a former academy student, he could at least hold his own. However, when Saren turned to check on him, she was met with an unexpected sight. The Jungmin stood surrounded by the bloodied bodies of multiple wolves, crimson dripping from his makeshift weapon, the battered metal sign pole. He held a heroic stance, exuding an aura of victory. For a moment, Saren froze in shock, struggling to process what she was seeing. Then the Jungmin collapsed, completely spent as his immersion ability wore off. Saren rushed to his side, alarmed by his condition. Despite the exhaustion, the Jungmin felt relieved and proud. He had finally activated his unique ability. To his surprise, the system notified him that he had gained several new skills, including fighting technique, level 1. He was confident he'd soon unlock even more, perhaps even finer control over his upper body movements. Unfortunately, the strain of using immersion had taken a harsh toll. His already weakened body was racked with pain, and he screamed in agony. Saren knelt beside him, worried, but he quickly brushed it off as simple muscle cramps from executing advanced movements without training. Eventually, Saren helped him to his feet, but curiosity lingered in her expression. She asked how he had fought so well despite having no known ability during their time at the academy. The question caught even him off guard. Glancing around at the bloody mess and his stained hands, he decided to keep his immersion ability a secret for now. He spun a believable tale, claiming that his academy training must have kicked in when he was backed into a corner. Grinning at his own quick thinking, he hid his excitement, because deep down, he was thrilled. He had finally understood how his power worked. He could channel the strength of any character, no matter how minor, as long as his knowledge of them was deep enough. Still, his body reminded him of its limits with another sharp stab of pain. Saren, still concerned, urged him to go to a hospital. He dismissed the idea, insisting that he simply needed to build stamina through regular training. After all, physical conditioning would be critical for using immersion again in the future. After a long day of playing the hero, the Jungmin slept like a baby. But his peaceful slumber was cut short at 9 in the morning by a flood of messages from Saren. The most recent notification on his lock screen was an apology. At first, he didn't understand what she was sorry for. Then, a chilling realization struck. Heart pounding, he jumped out of bed to check on what he suspected was the reason behind her apology. But he forgot how much his body had endured the previous day. Pain shot through him as he crumpled to the floor, wincing. He steadied himself, groaning, holding his aching head. His anxiety spiked when he noticed 32 missed calls and 92 personal messages on his phone. Confused and overwhelmed, he tried to piece together what had happened while he was out. The Jungmin began to investigate. To his surprise, his heroic act from the previous night had already been picked up by an online outlet and published in an article within a single day. The reason behind Saren's apology suddenly became clear. She hadn't wanted him to see that the article had linked him to the academy. Normally, dealing with monsters wouldn't have made headlines. But these weren't normal circumstances. Defeating creatures from a tower had caught the public's attention. Though the situation felt odd, the Jungmin let it go, trusting Saren's sincerity when she insisted it was unintentional. Curiosity got the better of him, and he started reading the article's comments. Some infuriated him. People downplayed his actions, mocking him for looking like an unemployed nobody and questioning the significance of defeating low-level monsters. The association with the academy only made the mockery worse. But as he scrolled further, he found comments from actual eyewitnesses, people who had been at the mart during the attack. These individuals vividly recounted how critical the Jungmin and Saren's efforts had been in preventing a disaster, thanking them for saving both children and adults. Those heartfelt messages brought a rare smile to his face. However, the smile quickly faded when a new notification appeared. He had been added to an academy group chat filled with unfamiliar names, all begging him to return and meet them. Among the messages were pleas from his former instructor and professor, both seemingly suspecting that the Jungmin had awakened a unique ability. Annoyed, he set the matter aside and called Saren instead. During their conversation, she offered to treat him to an expensive meal, blaming herself slightly for the article's publication. By the end of the call, the Jungmin's excitement had reignited. Determined to improve his use of immersion, he began researching possible training locations on his laptop. Later, while riding a train to one of the spots he had found, he came across another article. This one reported that Boric, ranked 76th globally, had failed to even enter the Swordmaster Tower. The article reminded him how much the towers had changed. In their early stages, many rankers had challenged them, gaining regression abilities, unique authority, and fame. Nowadays, however, the towers were far more difficult to conquer, with most challengers failing miserably. The Jungmin couldn't help but view these challengers as both ridiculous and admirable. On one hand, their repeated failures seemed masochistic. On the other, he admired their persistence, even when it cost them their health or sanity. As the train neared his destination, a thought crossed his mind. Despite the efforts of countless rankers, no one had been able to enter the Swordmaster Tower, let alone defeat it. After arriving, the Jungmin embarks and begins running through a massive forest until he reaches the foot of the tower. Gasping for air, he scolds himself for neglecting exercise, but at least he's finally arrived. Gathering his breath, he approaches the stone tablet standing at the tower's entrance. As he nears it, he senses the energy of one of the 7 heroes and notices something strange. Throughout heaven and earth, he alone can read the inscription on the tablet. It feels surreal. The delusional ideas he once typed into his laptop are now etched into reality. Driven by curiosity, the Jungmin places his palm on the stone. Almost immediately, someone from the surrounding crowd scolds him, warning that civilians should never touch anything related to the towers. Such actions can force a person inside without consent. Unbothered, he dismisses the warning. He believes it doesn't apply to someone like him, a weak adventurer bearing only the title of author. Ignoring the risk, he continues meddling with the stone tablet. What he fails to realize is that such behavior often triggers traps, something any author should know. True to form, the tower recognizes his title as the true owner of one of the 7 towers. Before the Jungmin can fully comprehend what's happening, the tower pulls him inside. He finds himself in a wide, grassy field. As he takes in his surroundings, panic sets in, and he screams in sheer terror, realizing just how deep a mess he's landed in. Meanwhile, in the topmost chamber of the tower, another man observes the antics outside. Though annoyed by the Jungmin's mere presence, he also feels an inexplicable connection to him. Rather than drive him away, he decides to bring him in, hoping to understand the source of this strange pull. This man is none other than the Swordmaster, a short, quiet man capable of slicing the horizon with his blade. Using magic, he summons the Jungmin to the first floor of the Swordmaster's tower. Unfortunately, he fails to consider how a below-average adventurer like the Jungmin could possibly survive the tower's trial. The first trial, the Space of Predators, is incomprehensibly difficult. The monsters spawned there are walking catastrophes. The Jungmin is given just 1 hour to escape before the creatures awaken. To make matters worse, the system hasn't even decided on a reward for completing the trial. As he stands in a daze, a massive surge of mana floods through his body, overwhelming him. This is why ordinary people never dare enter towers. They lack the necessary skills. The Jungmin is no exception. He had once attempted to attack a tower, only to fail miserably and break several bones in the process. That failure earned him the label of a joke among challengers, a stigma that followed him as the lowest-ranking participant in the Academy's practical exam. Even now, despite unlocking a unique ability, he knows he's nowhere near skilled enough to take on a tower that even high-ranking adventurers avoid. Frustrated, he begins to suspect the entire ordeal is a setup to get rid of him. Just as despair starts to creep in, a screen materializes before him, announcing that the trial's difficulty has been reduced to its lowest possible level. The cheeky message urges him to stop looking so pitiful and start moving. More insultingly, the screen classifies him as a Sorg class, an indignity that stings more than all his previous failures combined. Pushing past the jab, Jungmin starts piecing things together. The screen mentioned that the trial's difficulty was lowered by the tower's owner. Then it clicks. This is Eden, the Swordmaster. He created Eden, and all the characters from his novels were rumored to be the owners of the 7 newly emerged towers. When Jungmin says Eden's name aloud, the narcissistic headmaster assumes he's recognized for his own fame, unaware that his creator is calling to him. Jungmin's suspicions are confirmed. This really is the Eden he wrote into existence. Eden is one of the 7 heroes and, in many ways, a reflection of Jungmin himself. Both began as talentless nobodies. Eden, though skilled with a sword, initially lacked the ability to use mana. Like any classic protagonist, he eventually found a mentor, learned to harness mana, and embarked on a journey to the Devil's Castle. Along the way, he defeated countless demons, earned the title of Heroes, and became everything Jungmin aspired to be. Speaking with Eden fills Jungmin with pride, but his admiration is short-lived. Annoyed by Jungmin's silence, Eden abruptly leaves, his ego unable to bear not being the center of attention even for a moment. As silence falls, Jungmin finds himself standing in a desolate field, where the monsters are set to awaken in under an hour. Resigned to his fate, he realizes he has no choice but to face the trial head-on. Gathering his courage, he begins preparing, reassuring himself that, as the author, he might hold an advantage. That hope shatters the moment he encounters his first creature, a dragon soaring overhead. Panic sets in. Dragons are among the most powerful beings, and they're just the beginning. With less than 50 minutes remaining, Jungmin knows there's no time to hesitate. He traverses various terrains on the first floor and eventually reaches a damp, grassy meadow. As he steps forward, he unknowingly crushes a piece of wood beneath his foot. Examining it, he realizes the area is littered with similar fragments, all appearing to be from a tree. On closer inspection, he notices the pieces bear Eden's name. This discovery unlocks a new keyword, Eden, destroyed wooden fraud. Jungmin's title as the author begins detecting the tower's original records, revealing this exact location as the beginning of his novel's first episode. This is Aiden's training ground, the place where the hero transformed from a talentless boy into a genius. The trial's design perfectly mirrors the novel's introduction. Flooded with memories of his story's events and settings, the Age of Destruction, the Nightmare Forest, the downtown meadow, Jungmin quickly realizes a harsh truth. This trial is merely an obstacle, a recreation of Aiden's grueling training. As Jungmin reflects on past failures, a wave of self-doubt threatens to overwhelm him. But unlike the despondent teenager he once was, he chooses to move forward, determined to face whatever lies ahead. He drives his wooden sword into the damp soil and begins digging with fervor. Though unsure of what he's searching for, his efforts pay off when the sword strikes something buried underground. Overcome with excitement, Jungmin can't contain his joy, certain he's uncovered a hidden treasure. Ecstatic about hitting the jackpot, he grabs the object's roots and yanks it from the soil. His excitement quickly fades as the plant's grotesque appearance turns his stomach, but he's still relieved to find something useful. The plant, Scourge Leather Choir, is a super rare spiritual herb capable of permanently increasing his magic power by 1 point. It only grows in areas saturated with pure mana, making it incredibly rare. Yet Jungmin stands in a field teeming with them, at least 50, with the possibility of even more. The herb's fibrous and unpleasant appearance had deterred others from consuming it, but Jungmin, now in a life-or-death situation, decides to take a bite. Reluctant from the start, he quickly learns why the herb was left untouched. Its taste is so vile he begins puking uncontrollably. As the author of this world, Jungmin curses himself for creating such a deceptive item and forgetting how revolting it is to consume. Even knowing its instant power boost, he hesitates to take another bite. His choice is cut short when the tower reminds him that only 45 minutes remain before a swarm of monsters arrives to devour him. Tears stream down his face as he forces himself to eat the disgusting herb, reasoning that survival outweighs being picky. Desperation drives him to eat more and more, turning the ordeal into a bang of misery. With only 15 minutes left, Jungmin collapses in the same field, his condition worse than ever. His nose bleeds and his memory begins to fade. He's consumed so much of the herb that he's lost track of the amount. He's pushed his body beyond its limits. In return for destroying his stomach, his mana skyrockets. His body, unable to contain the overflowing energy, becomes dangerously unstable. Summoning his remaining strength, he wipes his nose, focuses, and begins channeling the collected mana into his wooden sword, just like Eden once did. Meanwhile, at the top of the tower, Eden watches Jungmin's actions. He's immediately impressed by the boy's precise knowledge of the herb, its location, and its purpose. His curiosity is piqued. How does Jungmin know about a plant that doesn't even exist in the regular world? Suspecting Jungmin is hiding something important, Adan grows more intrigued. But before he can unravel the mystery, Jungmin does something that leaves him completely stunned. In the original story, a royal magician from a small country lost her comrades during a demon subjugation and retreated to the countryside, where she met Edan. Her name was Darmarsha. Moved by Eden's reckless yet determined efforts to control his mana, she decided to teach him properly. Under her guidance, Eden mastered mana control, inspiring her to become a magic teacher in a rural village. Now, Jungmin seeks to immerse himself in her legacy as the next character of his ability. Charging all his mana into the wooden sword, he slams it into the ground with everything he's got, activating immersion while focusing on Darmarsha's name. To his surprise, he meets the requirements for immersion on his first attempt and receives the Blessing of Magic as a reward. Eden, recognizing the mana as his master's, grows even more suspicious. How could Jungmin possibly possess her mana? Meanwhile, Jungmin channels the refined energy into his heart, transfers it to his fingertips, then pours it back into the wooden sword. Despite repeated warnings from the tower about his depleted mana reserves and the havoc it's wreaking on his body, Jungmin refuses to stop his relentless efforts. The anomalies spreading through his body cause him to cough up blood. Watching Jungmin's desperate struggle, Eden, instead of offering help, merely laughs from his room, impressed by his determination. Eventually, the tower itself intervenes, warning him of his impending death. Yet, fully aware of the risks, Jungmin remains resolute. He would die fighting rather than fall prey to the monsters. This unyielding resolve pushes him beyond his limits as the mana channeled into the wooden sword reaches critical mass. With one final earth-shattering push, Jungmin grinds the sword into the ground, letting out a deafening roar as the weapon absorbs everything he has left. A violent storm of energy erupts, shaking the entire tower. Then, silence. When the dust settles, Jungmin collapses. He has traded his life to complete the sword that cuts the horizon trail. As his vision fades, a small smile of pride spreads across his face. He has accomplished something extraordinary, so monumental that even the tower mourns his death. But just as everything seems lost, a new screen appears. Hidden in Title VII Towers, true owner unlocks a secret strategy. The message hints that Jungmin's journey may not end here. Outside the tower, a news reporter enthusiastically addresses her live audience through the camera, broadcasting the event. She states that no one has successfully attempted the tower known as the sword that cuts the horizon in over 2 weeks, raising questions about whether anyone will ever stop the dangerous break. Nearby, a handsome attacker eagerly shoves a microphone in his face for an impromptu interview. Initially shocked that someone considers him handsome and worthy of the tower, the attacker decides to play along, unwilling to mess up his image in front of the cute reporter. When asked for his thoughts on whether someone will challenge the tower, he confidently replies that it might not happen because the myth of the tower has yet to be revealed, despite its connection to the sword. Emboldened by the live broadcast, the attacker boosts his good looks, somehow believing they'll enable him to clear the dungeon. His dreams are shattered, however, when the tower abruptly announces that the first floor of the Sword Master's tower has been cleared. The attacker, the reporter, and everyone present are left speechless. The tower then declares that no one is now qualified to enter the Sword Master's tower, leaving the crowd reeling, unable to process the situation. The broadcast is cut, though the producers plan to capitalize on the confusion by running advertisements. The camera turns to the producer, who is asked if clearing the first floor in just 2 weeks is even possible. Sensing an opportunity for a breaking news story, the producer speculates that someone with the right skill set, or possibly a free pass, managed to do it, which is technically true in Jungmin's case. They both conclude that the feat was likely accomplished by a rookie attacker, as high-ranking challengers wouldn't bother with a tower that isn't among the first few. Excited by the idea of interviewing this mysterious rookie, they remain unaware that he is actually dead. The The two paparazzi grow eager and greedy, as is typical, driven by the allure of a scoop. The reporter, in her excitement, decides to find the rookie herself. However, in her haste, she accidentally trips over the unconscious Jungmin lying at the tower's base. Realizing she has stepped on someone, she's startled to find he is still asleep despite being stomped on. Unsure whether to wake him, she hesitates. Before she can decide, the producer and cameraman call out to her from a distance, still oblivious to the gold mine lying right in front of her. Meanwhile, Jungmin, still unconscious, clutches his chest tightly and whispers the name Marsha as evening falls. He finally wakes up, his first thought being whether he cleared the first floor or was kicked out because he died, even with the difficulty reduced to amateur. Suddenly, Eden speaks to him telepathically, informing him that he slept long enough for everyone to leave. Jungmin is puzzled that Eden can communicate with him outside the tower and asks about it. The answer Eden gives raises even more questions. It turns out this rare occurrence is unique to Jungmin because the bond between the author and his characters is strong enough to bend the world's rules, something neither of them fully realizes yet. This also reveals that Eden, despite being one of the tower's heroes, is not all-knowing. Eden praises Jungmin for his unique method of clearing the first floor and declares his intention to stay with him. Jungmin is not thrilled about having an obnoxious hero in his ear, and at all times he tries to leave. But Eden bursts his bubble by explaining that their connection is permanent. Back at home, Jungmin's body overflows with mana. He checks his stats and discovers that his mana has increased by 6 points in a short span, and that he has gained 7 new skills. Mana Control, Level 2, Battle Step, Level 3, Schwartzman, Level 3, Experiment, Level 1, Physical Training Technique, Level 1, Shield Technique, Level 1, Archery, Level 1, and Master Alchemy, Level 1. He also receives the classification the Resurrected One due to his revival after clearing the first floor, granting him an extraordinary recovery ability comparable to Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z, allowing him to recover from life-threatening injuries with ease. Overjoyed by his upgrades, Jungmin forgets about Edan's voice in his ear until it suddenly returns, calling him a simpleton. After bickering, Aiden makes Jungmin check his stats window again. This time, Jungmin discovers a new passive skill, Hero's Mana Exclusive Grade. This skill, unique to descendants of the 7 heroes, massively boosts his mana, concentration, sensitivity, and control. Any interaction with mana now only benefits him, and even his uncontrollable mana is now stored within him, thanks to his infinite capacity. While Adon takes pride in granting Jungmin this power, Jungmin secretly plans to use it as a cheat code for life. He quickly heads to the first test center to try out his new combat skills. Along the way, Edon bombards him with guesses about his intentions. Jungmin confidently approaches the reception, only to be interrupted by a scoundrel in the crowd. His hero's mana skill detects the incoming attack, allowing him to dodge a mana-infused soda can thrown at him with malicious speed. The attacker, Jungmin Yugal, reveals his bright red mana, making it clear he's a public menace, and now accosts Jungmin as if he owes him money. Yugal's threatening demeanor wipes the smile off Jungmin's face, and they find themselves in an intense standoff. Yugal claims it has been a long time since he last met Jungmin, only because he missed tormenting his favorite victim. Jungmin curses his luck because Yugal is the last person he wanted to see right before testing his skills. Yugal, a former classmate from the academy, drives his inflated ego from possessing a unique ability. He proposes an aspiring session, triggering traumatic memories in young men who had once been violently beaten to the brink of death by Yugal, a textbook bully threatened by their intellect. Yugal preyed on them out of insecurity, frozen in fear. One Jungmin finds himself unable to react. Sensing his fear, Yugal escalates, insisting it would be a one-off battle. Grabbing the Jungmin's lapel, he mocks his mumbling. Before things go further, a man from the crowd intervenes, noting their uniforms and calling out Yugal's disrespectful behavior. Not wanting to ruin his reputation in front of Cho Byung-jun, Yugal reluctantly shoves the Jungmin away and warns him about their next meeting. As he walks off, he deliberately shoulders Jungmin, laughing as he goes. Jungmin clutches his shoulder in defeat, choosing not to retaliate, not out of weakness, but out of determination to focus on the evaluation he came for, refusing to let past traumas derail him. Eden, however, is furious and berates him for acting like a coward and letting Yugal walk away unscathed. Jungmin tries to explain that it wasn't an easy decision, but quickly moves on, entering the training room. He would rather train than waste time on bullies. Inside, he stands at the center of the training room, ready for his evaluation. A retina scan identifies him, pulling up his name and academy login, but shows no prior test results. The system welcomes him and offers a difficulty selection. He confidently chooses the lowest possible level, baffling Eden, who laughs and mocks him for pretending to be cool while picking such an easy challenge. Jungmin explains that the system would have defaulted to the lowest difficulty anyway, given his abysmal stats. The system analyzes his data and selects Golbat, the weakest F-class monster, as his opponent. Choosing a sword as his weapon, the Jungmin assumes he will be judged as he was at the academy. To his surprise, the sword feels incredibly light, allowing for swift and fluid movement. The weapon's feel reminds him of using immersion. Taking a ready stance, he leaps forward in one swift motion, slicing through the Golbat like butter. He defeats the monster in just 3 seconds, obliterating his previous record of 32 seconds. Impressed, the system automatically raises the difficulty from lowest to low. While the Jungmin is flattered by his improvement, Eden interrupts his celebration, pointing to the next opponent, a creature far stronger than a Golbat. The Jungmin turns to see a massive dinosaur-like monster with electric fangs and horns. Despite its intimidating appearance, he remains unfazed, filled with newfound confidence. He charges at the creature without hesitation. Meanwhile, in the lobby, the crowd erupts with excitement over something on the monitors. Annoyed by the noise, Yugal turns to investigate. He spots Cho Byong-jun among the spectators, watching the screen intently. Cho Jun, a Zeroth generation attacker renowned for conquering Zeus's Tower of the God of Thunder and possessing 7 unique skills, is a legendary figure. Starstruck, Yugal approaches him like a fangirl meeting her idol. He eagerly requests to become his student and asks him to review his sparring clips. In an unexpected twist, Chojun rejects Yugal's plea, stating he has already found someone he wishes to teach. Smiling at the screen, he adds that he's found a new friend. Curious, Yugal looks at the monitor and is shocked to see the Jungmin confronting the dinosaur-like monster in the training room. Chojun picks up a microphone and begins addressing the Jungmin directly, much to Yugal's dismay. Desperate to change Chojun's mind, Yugal interrupts, trying to convince him to reconsider and choose him as a student instead. Inside the training room, the Jungmin wonders who would dare interrupt him mid-session. Even the monster pauses briefly, as if pondering the same question. Byong-jun's voice cuts through, declaring his interest in the Jungmin's journey. He explains that the test the Jungmin is currently facing is infamous for turning participants' 5 senses against them. One challenger endured 7 hours of extreme cold. Another felt the sensation of dying while still alive. Yugal, watching from the sidelines, is baffled that the Jungmin is holding his own without even a hint of fear in his eyes. Byong-jun begins to wonder if the Jungmin is fearless or simply ignorant. Most attackers would be dodging and countering by now. Seeking answers, Byong-jun uses the microphone to advise him to close the distance between himself and the monster, where its weakness will be exposed. The Jungmin hesitates, second-guessing the advice. Closing the distance is exactly what he's been avoiding. But with the monster lunging at him, his choices shrink to either following Byong-jun's direction or confronting death head-on. Reluctantly, he chooses the former and charges in. As the monster closes in, the Jungmin finds himself face-to-face with the threat of death. He shuts his eyes and slashes blindly, narrowly avoiding its thunderous fangs. His shallow cut, however, reveals a shiny object on the monster's nape, instantly catching his attention. At first, he's unsure whether it's truly a weak spot, but its visibility screams final boss vulnerability. Dodging the monster's massive swings, he focuses on delivering a decisive blow. Leaping high above, the Jungmin strikes the nape with precision, landing a fatal hit and ending the battle. The system logs his completion time as 4 minutes and 50 seconds, revealing the monster's name, Iron Wolf. Back in the lobby, the crowd erupts in cheers. Yugal, overwhelmed by jealousy and disbelief, stands frozen, unable to process the fact that his former victim has surpassed him. Beomjun, noticing Yugal's stunned reaction, asks about his connection to the Jungmin. Startled, Yugal reluctantly admits he knows him. Barely. Exhausted, exits the training room, only to be met with Idan's backhanded compliments. Idan mocks him for struggling against a mere iron wolf. The comment stings, but sparks a realization. If he had trained his body over the past 2 years, he could have used immersion more effectively. Maybe even merged with Eden, minus the narcissism. Before he can dwell on it, Beomjun approaches, greeting him warmly and praising his academy-style swordsmanship. Assuming the Jungmin is still a student, Beomjun tries to strike up a friendly conversation. The Jungmin doesn't recognize him and casually dismisses him as just another older instructor trying to act familiar. Beomjun introduces himself simply as another academy instructor. The Jungmin notices Yugal standing behind him, face twisted with jealousy. Hesitantly, he admits he's currently on leave from the academy, a fact he's not proud of. He adds that the instructors were biased, a revelation that enrages Beomjun, who had no idea such mistreatment was happening. Yugal flinches at the mention, knowing full well he played a part in pushing the Jungmin out. Beomjun's disappointment briefly shows, but then turns into a glimmer of hope as he offers to personally train the Jungmin. The offer hits Yugal like a gut punch. He stands speechless, unable to comprehend how his former victim not only grew stronger, but is now being mentored by the very instructor he spent years trying to impress. Beomjun explains that he can teach the Jungmin more than just swordsmanship, offering lessons in hand-to-hand combat, spear techniques, and anything else he might want to learn. The Jungmin's eyes light up at the opportunity to master it all, but skepticism quickly sets in. He begins to suspect that Beomjun belongs to the all-master class, which seems too good to be true. In any world, a figure like that would never teach for free. Without hesitation, the Jungmin declines the offer. Catching on to his doubts, Beomjun decides to prove himself. He activates one of his unique abilities, Adventurer's Eye, and begins analyzing the Jungmin's weaknesses, scanning his body from the inside out. The effect starts at the eyes, triggering an internal alert. Though it feels invasive, it's just a scan. Still, the Jungmin's body reacts instinctively, perceiving the intrusion as a threat. Despite its harmless nature, Beomjun successfully infiltrates the Jungmin's subconscious. He finds himself in a blank space with a few floating digital screens. As he ventures deeper, he comes across a body of water. Initially unimpressed by the hollowness of the Jungmin's magic, he grows curious about the water. It's unlike anything he's seen before. Choosing to investigate further, he manipulates it to access more data. This intrusion sets off another alarm in the Jungmin's body, warning of a forced breach. The strain causes him significant discomfort, making it difficult to breathe. Annoyed by the old man's overreach, the Jungmin instinctively searches for a way to kick him out. His subconscious activates countermeasures, using hero's magic to reverse the adventurer's eye back onto Beomjun. The invasive old man is expelled, getting a taste of his own medicine. Despite being forcefully ejected, Beomjun emerges with a smile, his interest in the Jungmin only growing. The Jungmin collapses to the ground, exhausted. But the experience confirms it. He truly has a chance to learn from the legendary father of adventurers, Choi Beomjun. Amazed and terrified, the Jungmin is left in awe of the magic he just witnessed. Beomjun approaches again, this time respectfully, and repeats his offer to take him on as a student. After recovering from the ordeal, the Jungmin begins to view Beomjun in a new, encouraging light. Without hesitation, he accepts the offer, realizing it would be foolish to let the opportunity pass. As the two share their first moments as teacher and student, Yugal watches from a distance, consumed by jealousy. He seethes at the thought of the Jungmin outshining him again, despite believing he's worked harder. The sight of Beomjun walking away with his hand on the Jungmin's shoulder only deepens Yugal's resentment. The next day, the Jungmin sits at his computer, dressed like a hobo after a long nap. He wonders if it's okay to rest like this, but quickly reassures himself, remembering Beomjun's warning. He'll need every ounce of energy for the brutal training ahead. As Beomjun put it, the training will quite literally pull the life out of him. Deciding to kill time online, the Jungmin stumbles across news that all the biased and unfair academy instructors have been fired. It's obvious Byomjun had a hand in it, leveraging his influence as a founding member of the Adventurers Association and the Jungmin's new ally. Suddenly, a notification pops up on his screen. As the original author of this story, he's discovered a new piece of information within it. Curious, he investigates further and learns about a potion-making competition where the prize is a unique stone. The comments mock the stone, dismissing it as worthless, but the Jungmin immediately recognizes it. Bastium, a rare ore from the Age of Destruction. Somehow, the real world has reproduced it. Bastium is a divine relic, proof of God's existence in this world. The royal family has spent years collecting it, amassing only 30 kilograms to date. Despite its priceless nature, the stone resembles a mundane rock, making it easy to underestimate. Aiden, oblivious to the fact that he's yelling at his creator, scolds the Jungmin for not understanding Bastium's value. The tirade nearly bursts his eardrums, tempting him to reveal that he's the literal author of the story. Instead, he keeps it to himself. After the comedic misunderstanding, Aiden shifts to a more serious tone, questioning the Jungmin's expertise in potion making. Sheepishly, the Jungmin admits he's terrible at it. Aiden takes a deep breath, visibly restraining his frustration, and declares that the Jungmin must undergo intensive potion-making training. With only a week until the competition, Yidan insists they must secure the Bastium at all costs. The Jungmin understands the importance, but the thought of enduring Yidan's hellish training sends shivers down his spine. Nervous but resigned, he realizes he brought this on himself. Potions, also referred to as medicine, are items used to heal bruises and other minor injuries. They're efficient and widely available, but getting into a school that teaches potion making is notoriously difficult. Still, the Jungmin is relieved to know that even basic amateurs can be scouted by guilds. Despite his lack of experience, Jungmin believed he'd need to work hard just to create a simple potion. Instead, he finds himself in an anticlimactic moment when he successfully brews one on his first try by following a book written by the youngest apprentice of the royal alchemist. He's utterly shocked that it works. The Jungmin now possesses the ability to brew potions at level 1 of imperial alchemy. His creation is an ordinary, substandard health recovery potion that helps reduce fatigue and heals minor wounds more quickly. The description even includes an unnecessary jab, calling the potion a fluke made by an amateur who stumbled upon an expert's guide. While accurate, it does little for his already low self-esteem. In the following days, he immerses himself in the basics of alchemy, working tirelessly every day, mostly because Eden forces him to. The arrogant swordmaster, a relentless workaholic, floods the Jungmin's brain with information. By the time the competition arrives, the Jungmin sits in the lobby, completely exhausted from the grueling training, sulking over his torturous regimen. He overhears someone discussing the impressive lineup for this year's competition, claiming it surpasses previous ones. Curious, the Jungmin looks up and spots the source of the hype, a flamboyant figure basking in the crowd's admiration. It's Reynold, son of the famous master, accompanied by several renowned potion masters. Unease creeps in as the Jungmin realizes this isn't just a contest for amateurs. His anxiety deepens when he recognizes the likely reason for their presence: the producers. These individuals refine materials brought by adventurers from towers and dungeons into valuable items. The producers are prestigious, with only 38 granted the title of craftsman by the Adventurer Association, and just 8 of them holding the rank of master craftsman. The pressure of competing against such elite figures makes the Jungmin doubt himself. Edon, however, scolds him for his self-deprecating thoughts and reminds him of their shared goal, the Bastium. Trying to shake off his nerves, the Jungmin reaches for a potion but is interrupted by Reynold, who dismissively questions his actions. When the Jungmin politely explains the potion helps with fatigue, Reynold pretends to care but secretly fumes at being ignored. He retaliates by calling the Jungmin a street dog, implying he doesn't belong among craftsmen. For the first time, the insult truly angers him, but before he can respond, Reynold is called to the stage for the next group of contestants. Despite his fury, the Jungmin channels it into focus. The contest begins with a simple task: create a potion using the provided herbs. Reynold, ever the privileged brat, is unimpressed by the high-end compounding machine and the quality of herbs, even though they're exceptional for an amateur competition. He watches the Jungmin, who appears frozen, assuming he's wasting everyone's time, but Reynold misjudges him. The Jungmin is using immersion, a skill that lets him channel the abilities of fictional characters he created. This time, he draws from Aryan Pepper, the direct apprentice of the greatest alchemist in his original story. Aryan, though not the brightest, stood out for her exceptional mana control and relentless dedication, reading 100 books a day to overcome her weaknesses. Her commitment earned her the title of Direct Apprentice and the inherited knowledge of the Ascendant, a treasure trove of alchemical wisdom. Through immersion, the Jungmin manifests this knowledge in his hands. Drinking a potion to stabilize his mana, he braces for the flood of information. A system warning alerts him that the volume of knowledge exceeds his capacity, but his passive ability, Hero's Mana, compensates, allowing him to absorb the overwhelming influx. For the Jungmin, the experience feels like consuming thousands of books from an ancient library all at once, leaving him completely entranced by the surge of wisdom flooding his mind. As the mountain of knowledge continues to pour in, he begins to second-guess his ability to handle it. The system issues another warning about the massive gap between the knowledge being transferred and his current mana capacity. Fortunately, his passive ability, Hero's Mana, works overtime to stabilize the process. Using this as leverage, he endures the excruciating pain, even though it feels like his skull is being crushed. The process grants him temporary mastery over alchemy, along with deep insights into the history of alchemists, all without needing to slog through hundreds of books. Eden, though not experiencing the pain himself, senses the powerful energies flowing through the Jungmin. This only deepens Eden's curiosity about the mysterious ability he still hasn't fully understood. Despite the searing pain in his head, the Jungmin completes the transfer thanks to the grueling training he endured over the past week. With the knowledge now his, it's finally time to join the competition. However, when he rushes to gather herbs, he discovers that the baskets are empty. Everyone else has already taken the entire stock during his immersion. Aiden, already irritated by their delay, grows more frustrated. But when he sees a flicker of hope cross the Jungmin's face, his curiosity is piqued. Much to Eden's disappointment, the Jungmin has found only a handful of poisonous herbs. Eden suggests crafting a potent poison potion, something capable of taking down a large monster, reasoning that such a potion could still earn high points. Yet the Jungmin continues analyzing the remaining herbs, leaving Eden's suggestion hanging. The first herb he examines is Aston Dilapia, classified as unique. It raises body temperature due to its intense heat, but can destroy every vein if consumed improperly. The second, Baryon, is a rare class herb that transforms into a full-body mucous membrane when heated, shielding against external injuries. Yet it turns into a lethal poison if it enters the body. Armed with his newly acquired alchemical knowledge, the Jungmin begins forming an idea. To ace the competition, even Aiden can't grasp what he's planning. The Jungmin quickly gathers the materials and rushes back to his station. Regardless of the risk, he's determined to create something extraordinary. The ingredients he selects are so potent that even a single drop of each could kill thousands. He hesitates briefly, but with no better options, he presses on with trembling hands. Carefully, he begins mixing the essences of the poisonous herbs, relying on the immense knowledge gained through his immersion with Aryan Pepper. His nerves are frayed, fully aware of the danger. Meanwhile, Master Craftsman Reynold watches from the stands. Confident in his son Reynold's superiority, he casually dismisses the other contestants, including the Jungmin, for not utilizing the advanced compounding machine provided. However, upon closer observation, Reynold notices something remarkable. The Jungmin is using mana around his hands to neutralize the poison in the herbs and purify them in water, essentially replicating the machine's function manually. Reynold is stunned. Not only is the Jungmin mimicking the compounding machine's work, but he's also enhancing the herbs' benefits while eliminating their toxins. Reynold recalls that this method has only existed in theory. Attempting it is considered reckless, as failure could trigger a catastrophic explosion, dispersing poison across several miles. As Reynold debates whether to intervene, he's jolted back to the present when the crowd erupts in cheers. To his utter shock, the Jungmin has successfully created the only soul class potion of the competition. Reynold nearly loses his balance in disbelief. Even the competition's golden boy cannot fathom how someone just outshone him so spectacularly. The winning potion, the Potion of Fire, boasts extraordinary benefits. It grants a permanent mana increase, provides temporary fire resistance of up to 80%, and completely neutralizes the poisonous effects of its original ingredients through masterful alchemical manipulation. The potion's description notes it was crafted using alchemy from another world. Once consumed, it permanently boosts both fire resistance and mana capacity. The Jungmin's success also enhances his unique abilities, pushing his stats and skills beyond previous limits. His mood and mana levels rise steadily, especially as he realizes the potion didn't even take long to make. But, as usual, his celebration is cut short. Furious and insecure, Reynolds storms over, grabs the Jungmin's collar, and accuses him of cheating. He demands to know how an amateur could possibly create a soul-class potion. What Reynold fails to grasp is that the Jungmin is secretly using his ability to immerse into overpowered characters. But there's little a mere side character like Reynold can do about that. Reynold's rage only intensifies, but before he can lash out, Reynold intervenes. He scolds his son for acting out and tarnishing his reputation by behaving like a spoiled brat. Embarrassed, Reynold tries to defend his impulsive outburst by accusing the Jungmin of fraud. This only angers Reynold further. He points out that such baseless claims insult his own authority, since he was the one who declared the Jungmin the winner. The confrontation escalates into a tense standoff, their eyes locked in a silent clash. Eventually, Reynold cracks under the pressure. Swallowing his pride, he begrudgingly apologizes to his father. Reynold, unimpressed, tells him to direct the apology to Jungmin instead. Reluctantly, Reynold turns and mutters an apology. To everyone's surprise, Jungmin accepts immediately. It's oddly gracious, especially given how furious he'd been when Reynold previously called him a street dog. Reynold, clearly disappointed in his son, expresses regret for raising such an imbecile. Jungmin, however, insists he doesn't mind, helping to further diffuse the tension. Reynold then shifts the conversation, praising Jungmin's precise mana control during the potion-making process. Naturally curious, he asks who taught him such an intricate technique. Jungmin replies simply, claiming to be an autodidact. This revelation leaves both Reynold and Reynold visibly stunned, as such a claim is highly unusual. Before either of them can respond, the announcer calls for Jungmin to prepare for the award ceremony. As he walks away, Reynold reflects on the rarity of finding such talent in a small town. Deciding Jungmin is someone worth watching, he turns to his still crestfallen son and offers some consolation. Praising Reynold for a job well done, the words move Reynold to tears, and he resolves to better himself once they return to their home country. The award ceremony begins, and Jungmin is invited to the stage to receive his prize. The announcer reveals that the award will be presented by none other than Choi Beomjun. At the sound of the name, Jungmin reacts as if he's seen a ghost. He's not far off. Beomjun's seemingly pleasant smile conceals an anger so intense that Jungmin feels it in his bones, bracing himself for the inevitable scolding. Jungmin accepts the award and follows Beomjun to a nearby coffee shop for a private conversation. Seated across from each other, their body language couldn't be more different. Beomjun exudes control and authority, while Jungmin fidgets nervously. Beomjun questions his impulsive decision to enter the potion-making competition, pointing out that he had no prior knowledge of Jungmin's alchemical skills. Nervously, Jungmin explains that he taught himself to create potions once believed to be impossible. Unsurprisingly, Beomjun remains skeptical, but decides to let it go. Jungmin then brings up his need for a rare ore, though he avoids explaining the exact reason. Beomjun, unusually accepting of the vague request, admits his surprise at Jungmin's newfound talents. Seeking clarification, he asks if Jungmin has ever been involved with a guild. Jungmin confidently denies it. Beomjun then shifts his attention to the mysterious ore Jungmin presents. Jungmin eagerly explains that it's a soul-class stone with immense potential and that he needs a master craftsman to help unlock its full value. Initially skeptical, Beomjun hesitates to waste his unique skill. Adventurer's eye on what appears to be an ordinary rock. However, Jungmin's hopeful pleading convinces him to give it a try. To his surprise, the skill cannot fully analyze the stone. Instead, it reveals only surface-level information: mana amplification, storage, and sublimation effects. Even more baffling, the ore begins developing countermeasures, increasing the required mana for deeper analysis. Byamjoon is dumbfounded, having completely underestimated the mysterious stone. His main concern now is how someone as inexperienced as Jungmin could have identified the stone's unique properties, especially when even the competition organizers failed to notice them. He briefly considers delving into Jungmin's mind again, but ultimately decides against it, believing there's more value in observing him naturally. Finally, Byamjoon agrees to help Jungmin find a master craftsman in about a month. However, he insists that Jungmin take a break, reminding him of the grueling training ahead. To stave off boredom, Byamjoon suggests reconnecting with old friends from the academy. With that, Byamjoon leaves, while Jungmin reflects on his choice to ghost his friends for 2 years after leaving the academy in disappointment over his failed adventurer dreams. Suddenly, his phone rings. To his shock, it's a call from Taemin, the very friend he had just been thinking of. Stunned by the coincidence, Jungmin panics, unsure whether to answer. Before he can decide, he turns around and finds himself face to face with none other than Taemin himself. Both let out the same confused gasp as they stare at each other in the Pork Belly Cafe. Taemin and Jungmin catch up after a long time, easing into an extended conversation over coffee and laughter, marveling at the strange timing, right after Byamjoon had told Jungmin to reconnect. The reunion is unexpectedly natural. Kang Taemin, Jungmin's old friend, had been the second-ranked student at the academy, a prodigy with a long list of talents. Among them, his swordsmanship stood out. He had once cleared an A-class dungeon solo. Despite his accomplishments, Taemin remains laid back and humble, genuinely happy to see Jungmin again. As they chat, Taemin casually mentions that their group chat lit up with jealousy after he told the others he was hanging out with Jungmin. Playing it cool, Jungmin is caught off guard when Taemin reveals that Eunha is already on her way to meet them. He adds that she's been particularly excited to see Jungmin, which makes him visibly tense. His hesitation stems from guilt. Having disappeared without a word, Jungmin feels unworthy of an easy reunion. While Jungmin nervously chews on his food, Taemin explains that Yuna had a tough time after losing contact with him and warns that she'll want an honest, emotional conversation. What could have been a heartwarming get-together quickly shifts in tone. Jungmin's author abilities detect a familiar anomaly: the presence of an Everton curse, similar to the one he encountered at the grocery store. This low-difficulty event requires him to break the curse by saving the affected individuals before they're taken. The reward for completing this quest is valuable information about the mysterious Everton Association. Tension rises as Jungmin scans the cafe, searching for the source of the ominous feeling. Though the atmosphere lacks any clear murderous intent, both he and Taemin sense that something is amiss. Jungmin identifies a twisted mana surrounding the cafe, tracing it to its familiar source. When the cursed individual enters, both Taemin and Jungmin are stunned to find it's Yuna, who greets them warmly with a smile. They soon realize that Yuna isn't the worshipper, she's the cursed victim. The two brace themselves, a flashback overtaking Jungmin. He recalls his early days at the academy, when he was ostracized for ranking first in the entrance exam despite lacking a unique ability. One incident stands out. Students mocked him after his speech at the post-admission ceremony, ridiculing his lack of powers. Out of spite, Jungmin rushed past their group, disrupting their formation, only to be tripped by one of them and sent tumbling down the stairs. The students laughed at his inability to dodge such a lowly attack, but their taunts ceased when Yuna intervened. She demanded they apologize to Jungmin and chastised them for wasting time gossiping instead of studying like he did. Her defense of him illuminated his dark, lonely world, leaving him in awe. When the bullies attempted to retaliate, one was stopped by his friends, who reminded him that Yuna was the daughter of the Heavenly Mansion Guild's director, someone powerful enough to ruin their futures. Unbothered by their threats, Yuna flipped them off and helped Jungmin to his feet. She then invited him to dinner, teasing that Taemin owed her a meal after losing a bet. Jungmin, stunned by her kindness, followed her lead, grateful to finally have someone on his side. Over time, Yuna and Taemin became his first true friends. Even as the academy students grew resentful of their bond, the two top-ranking students used sparring sessions to retaliate against Jungmin's bullies without facing any consequences, earning his admiration and guilt in equal measure. Back in the present, Yuna notices the worried expressions on Taemin and Jungmin faces and asks what's wrong. Taemin points out that she doesn't seem like her usual self. She tries to brush off their concerns, claiming her doctor gave her a clean bill of health, but Jungmin persists, suggesting she might be involved in something shady. Eventually, Yuna relents and recounts a recent academy assignment. She had been sent with a group of professors to inspect a dungeon ahead of a planned academy tour. What initially seemed like a straightforward task soon took a disturbing turn. While exploring, Yuna noticed a bloody red spot illuminated on a rocky surface. Curious, she touched it, and the substance reacted violently, boiling around her hand and releasing a wave of dark mist, similar to what Jungmin had encountered before. Yuna managed to regain control and step back, but the mist lingered ominously. Unaware of what had transpired, the professors finished their inspection and called for her. Yuna rejoined them, leaving the mysterious mist behind. At first, she thought it was just an illusion, but now she realizes the mist continues to affect her, twisting her mana. Hearing this, Taemin becomes alarmed, declaring that her mana is too corrupted to ignore. Jungmin, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, braces himself for what lies ahead as they attempt to break the curse. Despite being one of the top academy students, Yuna seems oblivious to her mana being tampered with. Taemin grows increasingly worried, but Yuna dismisses the concern, claiming she's fine and there's no need to worry. Jungmin, however, insists they must address the severity of the matter, explaining that it poses a risk to many people if left unchecked. He offers to take a closer look at her mana, which makes Yuna nervous. She protests, saying it's been a while since they last met and he should hesitate before doing something so personal. Jungmin, however, presses her firmly, while Taemin watches the exchange in bewilderment. Jungmin activates Healing Light, releasing a golden glow of mana around him. Taemin recognizes the ability immediately. Jungmin deduces that if the Everton organization can curse people by borrowing demonic power, he can counteract it by temporarily converting his mana into divine energy. By coupling it with his passive ability Hero's Mana and immersing himself with the Lesser Priestess Esther to receive her blessings, he can fight back against the demonic influence. Though this divine power is limited in strength, it rivals the curse affecting Yuna. Jungmin begins the purification process, and Yuna braces herself. His determination comes from a desire to repay the kindness Yuna had shown him back in the academy. As the divine power takes effect, it instantly dispels the oppressive energy surrounding Yuna, leaving her pleasantly surprised. The quick exorcism works. Yuna and Taemin, both knowledgeable about mana, are astonished by what Jungmin has just accomplished. Yuna feels rejuvenated while Taemin's curiosity grows. Jungmin, however, is flustered by their questions, claiming his actions were minor compared to the support they gave him in the past. Taemin and Yuna, on the other hand, are ecstatic about Jungmin's unique ability, considering it a rare and impressive feat. Taemin excitedly grabs and shakes Jungmin, leaving him pleading for mercy as Taemin slaps him on the shoulder. Yuna, touched by the moment, sheds tears of joy. Their genuine happiness for Jungmin's success reflects the depth of their friendship. Taemin then raises the question on everyone's mind. Will Jungmin return to the academy now that he has a unique ability? Jungmin reveals that he plans to officially drop out as he is now studying under a master. Yuna and Taemin, intrigued but respectful, don't press further about the mysterious master. Jungmin avoids revealing details, as disclosing his mentor's identity, the father of all adventurers, is no trivial matter. He apologizes for keeping them in the dark for so long, but Yuna and Taemin, ever supportive, reassure him. They are simply glad he's doing well and only request that he stay in touch to avoid future surprises. Jungmin readily agrees, grateful for such steadfast friends. The most joyful day Jungmin has experienced in a while comes to an end, and he returns to his dorm, collapsing face first onto the floor from exhaustion. After spending the day playing and reminiscing with Yuna and Taemin, he feels drained but fulfilled. As he rests, he receives the reward for completing another episode, information about Everton's next move. When Jungmin opens the reward screen, he leaps up in shock. The information reveals that Everton plans to raid the Academy's dungeon field trip in 15 days, once they've gathered enough devotees. Knowing that Yuna and Taemin could be in danger during the raid, Jungmin contemplates warning the Academy's professors. However, he hesitates, worried that Everton might intercept the warning and alter their plans. Jungmin decides to take matters into his own hands. Feeling responsible for creating the antagonistic Everton organization, he resolves to stop them himself. His guilt over endangering his friends drives him to take action. The next day, Jungmin finds himself in Beomjun's underground training facility, staring in awe at the state-of-the-art equipment, including weights twice his body weight and unfamiliar machines. He feels like a child in a candy store. Beomjun enters behind him, scolding him for being so loud. The facility is impressive, boasting features that surpass even the Academy's training rooms. One standout is the 5th-generation virtual combat system, the only one of its kind in South Korea, worth an astonishing 50 billion won, approximately $37 million USDs. Beomjun nonchalantly brushes off the cost and instructs Jungmin to begin training before leaving. Beomjun hands Jungmin a bubble-wrapped package. Inside is a necklace made of refined bastium, a first-rate unique item with effects such as mana amplification, storage, sublimation, and shape change. The rare mineral chooses its owner and amplifies their mana, storing any excess. Jungmin, impressed by the craftsmanship, eagerly equips it. Beomjun recounts the trouble he went through to forge the necklace, as many forgers tried to buy the bastium from him. With the formalities done, Beomjun initiates Jungmin's training, instructing him to start with a light warm-up. As Jungmin enters the training room, the environment abruptly shifts. The air stops flowing, the air conditioners shut off, and the floor begins to glow purple, light emanating between the tiles. Through the microphone, Beomjun explains that Jungmin has already mastered the theory at the Academy. What he lacks is real-world experience to handle this. Beomjun has deliberately contaminated the room with twisted mana to simulate a life-threatening scenario. Jungmin's hero's mana reacts sensitively to the corrupted energy, forcing him to navigate and overcome the dangerous conditions. Beomjun's unorthodox test has begun, and Jungmin must find a way out before succumbing to the deadly trial. Beomjun's approach is unconventional, suffocating Jungmin to the brink of death to provide real-life battle experience. The entire training room is contaminated with a toxic atmosphere that worsens by the minute, leaving Jungmin with no choice but to figure out how to escape in time. Jungmin's mana receptors and his passive skill, Hero's Mana, go haywire in response to the contamination. The oppressive environment brings him to the verge of panic. As if the poisonous air weren't enough, Jungmin is warned of a sticky energy trying to paralyze him further. Weak at the knees, he collapses to the ground, unable to control his body. It feels as though he's drowning in a deadly swamp. Then, through the intercom, Beomjun's voice cuts through the chaos, urging Jungmin to analyze the air. Beomjun explains that this practice is vital for adventurers preparing to enter real dungeons which often contain toxic environments similar to this simulation. However, the sly old man has an ulterior motive. He's pushing Jungmin to reveal his hidden ability. Beomjun smirks in anticipation, but Jungmin struggles to even stand, his face pale and drenched in sweat. For nearly an hour, he fights to endure the trial. Jungmin grits his teeth and powers through the ordeal, adapting to the contamination. Though impressed, Beomjun knows this is just the tip of the iceberg. Dungeon ecosystems differ vastly from the real world, where grudge-filled energies left behind by the dead poison the environment. These grudges not only suffocate adventurers, but they are also known to attack vital organs, making dungeons perilous even for the most experienced. At the 57-minute mark, Jungmin, trembling and on the brink of collapse, finally speaks. His voice is strained, yet he surprises Beomjun by asking permission to use his unique ability. Beomjun's shock quickly turns to frustration as he yells at Jungmin for waiting so long. Apparently, Jungmin had assumed he wasn't allowed to use it until now. Beomjun's angry outburst makes Jungmin laugh awkwardly, further infuriating the old man. Suddenly, Eden, the ever-watchful spirit linked to Jungmin, appears. He chuckles proudly, revealing that it was his assistance through Hero's mana that allowed Jungmin to endure this long. The passive skill, coupled with divine mana, has a purifying effect on the contaminated environment. It is a rare trait possessed only by the 7 heroes that allowed Jungmin to survive thus far. With no time to waste, Jungmin assumes a meditative stance, surrounding himself with a golden divine aura. He focuses his energy to purify the room and begins searching for the perfect character to immerse with. Beomjun, watching from the surveillance room, is on the edge of his seat. Finally, Jungmin activates Immerse, calling forth Lesser Priestess Esther, whose divine power temporarily strengthens his own mana. The room glows with golden light as Jungmin reverses the career erosion caused by the contamination. Beomjun mutters theories to himself, wondering if Jungmin's ability is Spirit Descent, a unique skill that allows users to borrow power from spirits. However, he notices Jungmin's energy flow is far too refined for such a skill. Beomjun snaps out of his thoughts when Jungmin addresses him, asking if something is wrong. Beomjun clears his throat and tells him to proceed. 3 hours and 28 minutes later, Jungmin finally collapses from exhaustion. Beomjun watches in awe, calling his student a monster for lasting so long under such extreme conditions. Jungmin, still lying flat on the floor, takes it as a compliment, which only frustrates his teacher further. Beomjun's annoyance grows as he scolds Jungmin for putting himself through unnecessary suffering by holding off on using his ability earlier. His irritation quickly shifts into action as he storms into the training room, weapons in hand, before Jungmin can catch his breath. Beomjun announces the next phase of training, swordsmanship. Jungmin barely has time to react before his master threatens to beat him into shape, grumbling about how much overtime he has to put in because of this troublesome kid. Jungmin, utterly confused, wonders if this is punishment for waiting too long to use his ability. But in reality, Beomjun is just venting his frustration about working harder than he planned. As Beomjun picks up his weapon, Jungmin's face turns pale. His master's temper has reached its boiling point, and it seems the next training session is going to be just as grueling as the last. The training session Beomjun gave Jungmin right after his endurance challenge bore some fruit. Our boy is now lean, mean, and ready to take on the world. Still a bit skinny, though. This transformation also improved his stats significantly, and he managed to gain valuable information about the dungeon the Academy is planning to visit for a field trip. The trip is set to take place near the Shepherd Light Tower in exactly a week. Fortunately for Jungmin, this dungeon isn't particularly challenging, expected for a field trip. If that wasn't reassuring enough, personal bodyguards and professors will be present to protect the students, an overestimation by the Academy, considering the enemy is only Everton. However, the Academy isn't the only one preparing for this attack. Jungmin has been making his own preparations over the past week, thanks to Beomjun's rigorous training. Jungmin's blood vessels are unblocked, his mana circuits are running smoothly, and his mana now flows effortlessly throughout his body. While Beomjun's harsh methods played a big role, Jungmin's stubbornness also contributed to his progress. With his improved physical stats and mana circulation, low-tier immersion no longer affects him, allowing him to confidently step up to intermediate-tier immersion. Apart from combat, Jungmin, who impulsively entered an alchemy competition, has improved in the field and used his skills to sell intermediate potions. With 238,000 won, roughly 162,000 USD in his bank account, Jungmin feels relieved he's no longer living like a peasant. However, reality comes crashing down when he visits an artifact shop and finds that the extremely rare sword he's been eyeing costs a whopping 3 billion won. Still, he manages to purchase some relatively cheap yet high-quality items, including a sword that significantly improves his swordsmanship and unlocks an ability to unconsciously practice in the training room. Jungmin notices that the sword feels much lighter, not because of muscle gain, but thanks to the extraterrestrial bracelet he purchased. The bracelet allows the user to lift objects weighing up to 200 kilograms by distorting space with his newfound strength. Jungmin is confident he can impress the ladies while also honing his improved abilities, a win-win. While flexing his newly developed muscles in front of his bathroom mirror, much like a teen after a New Year's gym session, Eden snickers at his creator's overconfidence. Jungmin, unable to contain his excitement over how well things are going, mockingly takes pity on Everton. He even claims to feel lonely because of his hero's mana ability. Eden, annoyed by this comment, threatens to take away all his powers to humble him. Suddenly, Jungmin's phone rings. It's Beomjun, and Jungmin wonders why his master is calling. Upon answering, he's immediately hit with troubling news. The Academy has appointed Beomjun as chief manager for the dungeon trip due to concerns for the students' safety. Jungmin, dumbfounded, struggles to understand why Beomjun is being sent on what's supposed to be a low-tier dungeon trip. Thinking quickly, Jungmin offers to join the team. Beomjun, naturally suspicious, asks why. After fumbling with his words, Jungmin admits that he wants to use Beomjun's fame to enter the dungeon without an attacker's license, as he's not on the Academy roster. Beomjun gets angry at Jungmin for trying to blame his dropout on him. Panicked, Jungmin refers to himself as a student eager to experience a dungeon for the first time. After some contemplation, Beomjun decides that Jungmin is capable of clearing a low-level dungeon and agrees to his request on the condition that they stick together. 1 week later, on the night before the dungeon trip, Jungmin lies on his bed, smiling as he informs Yuna and Taemin about his surprise involvement. They joke about him using connections or selling his soul to take part, and Jungmin enjoys the lighthearted conversation, ending his night on a joyful note. Meanwhile, at a certain headquarters, a man in a red cloak surrounded by dark energy ponders how Yuna escaped their trap. He walks through the hall and enters a meeting room where 9 other cloaked figures sit around a round table. The council questions him about the preparations, and he confidently states that the seeds have been planted in the lowest grade dungeon, waiting for the academy to let its guard down. The conversation takes a darker turn when one of the council members warns the man known as Number 10 that he will be killed if he fails. Determined to succeed, Number 10 vows to complete the mission. The council, in a rare moment of unity, cheers him on before breaking into a malicious chant, a sadistic orchestra that reflects their twisted ideology. The next morning, Jungmin arrives early at the venue, stretching to wake up his body. He doesn't remain alone for long. As Saren arrives, greeting him happily, both are surprised to see each other, not realizing they were going on the same trip. Saren explains she's there on a scholarship, crediting Jungmin for teaching her. Jungmin, however, can only think about how he now has another close friend to look after in the dungeon. While they catch up, Taemin and Yuna join them, excited to go on the trip with Saren and Jungmin. Taemin asks if Jungmin's involvement is legitimate, noting that dropouts weren't supposed to participate. Saren is surprised by this revelation, but Yuna explains that Jungmin now has a teacher. Curious, Saren asks who could rival the Academy's teaching to make Jungmin drop out, but before Jungmin can answer, his sly old man of a teacher, Beomjun, enters the scene. The crowd erupts and cheers for the legendary adventurer, much to Jungmin's embarrassment. Worried about his friend's reactions, Jungmin hides his face, but Yuna notices Beomjun walking toward them. Panicked, Jungmin considers bailing, but it's too late. Beomjun greets him by his full name, embarrassing him further. Beomjun, enjoying his student's discomfort, insists Jungmin acknowledge him publicly. Flustered, Jungmin awkwardly introduces Beomjun as his master. After a brief pause, his friends finally process the situation. Saren is ecstatic that Jungmin is being taught by the best adventurer on the planet. Taemin, equally excited, wants to know how this fated encounter even happened. Meanwhile, Yuna feels a bit hurt that Jungmin kept this a secret from them. Their barrage of questions overwhelms Jungmin, who asks them to confront him one at a time. They soon board the bus and embark on their journey to the dungeon. Upon arrival, they enter the Night of Scream, where the contaminated magic power weighs heavily on everyone. Jungmin, however, is unaffected, as Hero's mana works overtime to shield him from impurities. As the students and professors cautiously explore the eerie forest, Taemin points out that Yuna never mentioned anything about a cave when she inspected this dungeon. Saren wonders if they took a wrong turn, but Yuna senses a bigger problem. Something feels off about what should be a low-level dungeon. Alarmed, she informs the professors about the strange vibe she's experiencing, noticing that the dungeon's level has changed, which is a highly unusual turn of events. The group is worried, but despite the unsettling circumstances, they try to enjoy the trip. Meanwhile, the insecure bully Yugal watches Jungmin from afar, seething with hatred. Yugal mutters insults about Jungmin being a dropout, barely able to contain his contempt. Unbeknownst to Jungmin, the system activates the Night of Scream storyline he wrote, catching him completely off guard. As the author, he struggles to remember the details, but his thoughts are interrupted when a black aura emerges from the forest. A horde of zombified figures appears within it, chanting ominously. The professors and students are terrified, and even those who previously inspected the dungeon had never encountered anything like this. Byung-jun steps in, urging everyone to stay calm, but the zombie horde and black mist close in, whispering their longing for warm bodies. This triggers a memory in Jungmin of the Night of Scream story, but before he can explain, the professors draw their weapons, ready to fight. Jungmin immediately warns Byung-jun not to attack the ghosts. Byung-jun demands to know why they should refrain from engaging the spirits. Jungmin agrees with Byung-jun's caution, but points out that the ghosts aren't attacking. They're just wandering, repeating their longing for a heart. He emphasizes that if the ghosts wanted to attack, they could have already eliminated everyone. After all, they are ghosts. Byung-jun uses his adventurer's eye, a lie detector, to verify Jungmin's claims. Meanwhile, Jungmin debates whether to reveal that he is the author of the story. Ultimately, he decides against it, and instead explains that he once read about a similar situation where attacking evil spirits cursed the protagonists. Despite this, one member of the group loudly accuses Byung-jun of being influenced by baseless claims from his student. However, Byung-jun, trusting his adventurer's eye, tells everyone to remain calm and stay on guard. This decision draws criticism from the group, with some questioning his title as the father of adventurers. Yugal, driven by jealousy, mutters that Byung-jun is likely trying to recruit more students to boost his reputation. Byung-jun, in no mood for nonsense, shuts him down with a sharp rebuke. The conflict escalates when the head of the swordsmanship department steps in to support Yugal with a smug demeanor. The head mocks Byung-jun for allegedly prioritizing his students' opinion over the safety of the group. He even accuses Jungmin of cowardice, questioning why he is so reluctant to approach the ghosts. Jungmin stands his ground, explaining that agitating the ghosts would lead to disaster. The swordsmanship head, unimpressed, dismisses Jungmin's reasoning as naive, labeling it as sending them to their doom. Byung-jun intervenes, calmly explaining that dungeons don't always require combat to be cleared and reminding the group of the curses tied to fighting vengeful spirits. This puts Jungmin at ease, and he sighs in relief, believing the situation is under control. Unfortunately, his optimism is short-lived. The swordsmanship head, unable to resist his desire to assert dominance, charges at the ghosts, wiping out the entire horde in a single strike. Jungmin's devastating scream echoes through the forest as he watches in disbelief. The swordsmanship head smugly claims this as an efficient solution and chastises Byung-jun for delaying what he considers a simple task. Seeing Jungmin in despair, Byung-jun reminds the swordsmanship head who is in charge of the dungeon, sparking another heated exchange. The arrogant instructor lashes out, accusing Byung-jun of being swayed by a mere student. Yugal seizes the moment to quote Byung-jun's own advice about suspecting everything in a dungeon. Byung-jun quickly shuts down the argument, reminding everyone of the dungeon's golden rule: follow the leader's commands. As the bickering subsides, Jungmin receives an alert from the system about a change in the dungeon's difficulty due to the disruption of the original story's flow. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Jungmin steels himself for the now intermediate dungeon and prepares for what's to come, with the difficulty shifting from low level to intermediate. The ominous chanting of the ghosts changes from a longing for warm bodies to an intense urge to kill anyone who dares to doubt Byung-jun's orders. Some in the group still question why they should not attack, despite clearly hearing the ghosts blaming them for their traumas. However, not all of them are oblivious. One of the girls notices the fog thickening by the second. Byung-jun discusses their next course of action with Jungmin, but Jungmin is primarily focused on surviving the unpredictable reactions of the ghosts. The Night of Scream transforms into the Night of Nightmare due to one smug department head succumbing to his emotions. The ghosts' resentments evolve into a raging intent to murder every living being in the forest, upgrading them from mere ghosts to vengeful spirits typically found in higher level dungeons. The dismembered, broken limbs and grotesque appearances of the ghosts intensify as their mournful cries shift into bloodthirsty chants. Witnessing the situation escalate so drastically, Yugal realizes he has sided with the wrong teacher and collapses to the ground, paralyzed by despair. The smug, lanky swordsmanship department head also drops to his knees, choking from an unseen force. Byung-jun shows only the bare minimum of courtesy, ordering Saran to drag the arrogant man to the sidelines to at least prevent his death. Saran, eager to help, accepts this as her first mission. Byung-jun then turns to Jungmin, asking if he should step in now that the ghosts have turned into evil spirits. However, Jungmin insists on taking responsibility himself. This frustrates Byung-jun, who finally loses his cool, arguing that people are being attacked. Yet his stubborn student insists on shouldering the burden alone. Jungmin justifies his request by explaining that attacking the evil spirits again could cause them to become even more dangerous beings. Despite his fear for his friends, Jungmin feels compelled to take charge due to his weeks of preparation and his sense of responsibility. After some consideration, Byung-jun reluctantly agrees to let Jungmin handle the situation, but gives him a rare illusion ring to aid him. The ring allows its user to alter their appearance using mana and even activates a shadow clone jutsu-like ability. Jungmin is taken aback by the gift, prompting Byung-jun to explain it in relatable terms. The old man jokingly references the trope of a seemingly weak protagonist actually being strong, but quickly dismisses it to avoid breaking the fourth wall. Their brief exchange ends, and Jungmin steels himself for the task at hand. He knows failure is a possibility, but his determination to help these spirits far outweighs his fear. The children abandoned by their parents, used as human shields, and left to suffer alone after losing loved ones to war, deserve peace. Jungmin resolves to help them without violence, as they have endured enough. Using the illusion ring, Jungmin activates his immersion with Michelle Condor, a high-level character raised by the priests of a small temple. Michelle grew up to be a priestess who saved countless children from resentment through revelations from the Lightbringer. Immersing with such a powerful character is a first for Jungmin, as he has only used low-level priestesses like Esther before. To his surprise, the Lightbringer seeks him out during the immersion. Though unsure of who Jungmin is, the Lightbringer reveals itself as Prina and calls him to a space resembling an endless void. There, he stands before a gigantic floating figure of Prina. She begins to pray for him, while Eden watches from afar, perplexed by how Jungmin managed to immerse, first with his master, and now with the Lightbringer herself. Prina's prayer makes the immersion with Michelle Condor easier. A golden-cased cross materializes from the yellow, flowing divine aura into Jungmin's hands, completing his first successful immersion with an intermediate-level character. The illusion ring activates, projecting an image of Michael, a being radiating golden divine aura. This representation grants Jungmin perfect synchronization with Michelle Condor. Byung-jun watches in amazement as his student's abilities, far surpassing what he displayed in class 2 weeks ago, unfold before him, unsure of how Jungmin grew so much stronger in such a short time. Byung-jun concludes that his student is a true monster in human form. Jungmin's divine aura expands, enveloping the entire forest and academy. The crowd, witnessing his transformation, finally sees Jungmin as the true main character. The enormous storm of divine aura surrounding the eerie forest, with Jungmin at its center, forces the horde of evil spirits to retreat as the light burns them. The divine aura begins to drizzle down like rain, which the students notice is happening at the will of the giant priest-like figure. Yuna and Saran also notice the figure and try to deduce his identity. Meanwhile, Taemon, in awe of the priest's beauty, wonders if this person swung that way. The priest raises the cross in his hands and calls upon the Knight of Scream with his prayers. The ghosts of the children had turned into evil spirits because a lanky, smug head of the department acted rashly. This unnecessary risk could have been avoided had they not attacked the ghosts. All the Academy needed to do was hold a memorial for the dead children to end the episode, giving the children at least something close to peace. Jungmin, taking it upon himself as the original author, relieves them of their misery. The cross grows gigantic, shedding light all over the forest for everyone to gaze upon in amazement. Everyone wonders who could have achieved such a feat. Yuna, being perceptive despite the curse she bore, notices the evil spirits crying. The children finally feel the warmth they longed for and vanish into thin air, turning into specks of golden dust as they find peace. The Night of Scream ends, along with Jungmin's immersion, but because he exceeded the limits of what his body could handle, a severe backlash ensues. Jungmin begins to fall unconscious, and the system floods him with notifications all at once. Our boy leveled up, as did his skills. He also gained a new passive skill enhanced mana system, along with increased stats because the character he immersed in broke his limiters. Since he is fully synced with the hero's mana, the maximum amount of energy he can exert has doubled. As Jungmin continues to fall, he permanently gains the protection of the Lightbringer for completing the Night of Scream in a hidden way. Byumjun catches him before he hits the ground, and his three friends gather around him, visibly worried. Byumjun knows that unleashing such an insane amount of mana in such a short span must be draining for a novice like his student. While assessing the situation, Jungmin coughs up heaps of blood, causing panic. He is rushed to the hospital with a few recovery potions administered along the way before they can even begin the escort. Dark energy arrows spawn from the forest soil and shoot toward the group. Byumjun notices them in time and nullifies the damage. However, their mere existence is a hindrance due to Jungmin's condition. Visibly enraged, Byumjun confronts the source, the Everton scum. One of them demands that Byumjun hand over the 8th hero. The slimy-faced Evertonian has the audacity to talk down to the father of all adventurers, but Byumjun quickly shuts him up. He instructs Jungmin's friends to take care of him while he handles business. The Evertonian is determined to capture the students, but his meaningless screams are cut short when Byumjun grabs him in the most viciously efficient manner while his student is practically on his deathbed. Byumjun's swift elimination of the spokesperson injects fear into the remaining Everton henchmen. Not wanting to prolong the fight, Byumjun takes them all on at once. Who knows what one-sided massacre unfolded during the battle? Fast forward to Jungmin waking up in the hospital. The first thing he sees is Byumjun slicing apples. Maybe that's what he did to the Everton guys. It turns out Jungmin was unconscious for 3 days. His first concern is for his friend's well-being. After the dungeon, Byumjun jokes that a scientist materialized in the forest and saved everyone, which confuses Jungmin. The old man pats his head for a job well done, but also expresses concern for his beloved student, who regularly passes out after slightly upgrading his unique abilities. After this heartfelt moment, Byumjun drops a bomb on the freshly recovered Jungmin. Poor lad thinks one of his friends got hurt, judging by Byumjun's face. But all the dramatic buildup leads to the old man admitting that he accidentally told Jungmin's parents about him dropping out of the academy. Jungmin loses his temper, dropping honorifics while addressing Byumjun, which only riles the old man up. Jungmin is furious now because he has to face his disappointed parents who had high hopes for him. Byumjun blames Jungmin for not informing him earlier, and the nurse schools them both for being too noisy in the hospital. Returning home after 2 years on leave of absence, Jungmin stands nervously at his parents' doorstep, dreading their reaction. His admission as the top-ranked candidate had been a celebration in the entire village, and now the news of his dropping out looms over him. Realizing there's no escaping it, he steels himself and enters the house, ready to beg for mercy. To his surprise, he's greeted by the wholesome sight of his parents sitting at the dinner table with food prepared for his arrival. They share a hearty reunion dinner, and Jungmin stuffs himself with his mother's home-cooked food after so long. Still worried about her son, his mother offers him dessert, but Jungmin, already bloated, politely declines, knowing his stomach isn't used to such good food. His mother remains concerned about his weight loss, but now comes the talk with his dad. Surprisingly, his father isn't against his decision to drop out, though he expresses mild disappointment. Jungmin had worked hard to earn the top rank, but his father is just glad he changed his mind before getting hurt in Ranjan. Not expecting such an anticlimactic reaction, Jungmin is left speechless. Before he can process it, his mother informs him about a dungeon that materialized near the village 2 months ago. She suggests that he find a safe job, and his father warns him to be careful. Jungmin realizes that this dungeon appeared around the same time his novel was published by the world system as Towers. This makes him painfully aware that it is his fault his parents are now living near a dangerous dungeon. Inspecting the area where his mother said the dungeon appeared, Jungmin trolls around the forest to locate it. He uses his newly learned Academy Advanced Skill Detection to double the range of spotting anomalies that normal humans can't detect. He's startled by a sudden presence, but Eden is there to calm him down in his older brother-like way. Eden reminds him of the new skill unlocked after clearing the Night of Scream enhanced mana system. Jungmin, thinking he underestimated the radius of his detection, estimates it to be around 1 kilometers. Aiden busts his bubble by stating it's below average, explaining that scanning a mountain is much more mind-blowing. Jungmin, still confident in his abilities, pushes forward with his search, silently reminding himself that he is far above most others. As he searches through the bushes, he finally comes across the entrance to the dungeon, a huge black hole surrounded by crackling red lightning. The eerie sight welcomes him inside, but to his surprise, the dungeon feels unexpectedly low level. He vocalizes what everyone else is thinking. This horrifying entrance is far too menacing for a dungeon of such a low rank. Meanwhile, in the Adventurer Association Forensic Department, Baeom-jun expressed his frustration to a lab-coated guy, as he stated that after considerable examination of a body, there was still no information except a mark, leaving him unable to guess where these guys came from. The colleague inquired if there was something specific he was looking for, noting his extended examination the previous day. Baeom-jun recalls that school trip where this Everton with a menacing voice was threatening death unless he handed over the 8th hero. He still wasn't able to understand who this Everton was referring to. 8th hero. Coming back, Eden urged Jungmin to enter that nearby low-difficulty dungeon, questioning his hesitation and fear. Jungmin considered informing the association, but worried about a potential dungeon break occurring in the interim, just as a system message announced that the Das Dungeon Path of Choices awaits your decision. He hesitated, concerned that the dungeon's difficulty might increase if he entered alone, similar to the Night of Scream dungeon. Suddenly, a gold message window appeared, declaring, "Disappointed." Jungmin thought of a gold message window, which means it might be the Lightbringer, but the message itself asks him to call her Prina instead of using that cringy nickname. Immediately, Edon interjected, scolding Prina for interfering and appearing so suddenly, to which Prina dismissively replied, "Tsk, you are still as rude as ever." Jungmin wondered how he could communicate with Edon and now other heroes. Prina is one of the other heroes, questioning if there was some kind of connection to the Night of Scream incident. Prina's voice encouraged Jungmin to be more confident, reminding him of his past success in helping young souls and expressing belief in his ability to handle the current situation. Heartened, Jungmin laughed, thanked her, and decided to proceed, noting the dungeon was near his house and he should resolve it quickly. As he entered the dungeon, the system declared, "Dungeon, Path of Choices, is welcoming you." Subsequent messages indicated the dungeon was Wernwer, looking back through his past and memories to create a trial, and after some time it was able to generate a suitable place for him. Later, he was abruptly jolted awake by a loud alarm clock reading 6:10, which he snoozed. Confused to find himself lying down, he exclaimed that he was sure he had entered the dungeon. Looking around, he noticed a desk with a calendar and a note about a month-end assessment, no late allowed, recognizing the tables from the academy and wondering if he had traveled back in time. A system message then confirmed the dungeon was Swanschwad. Looking back through his past and memories, the scene then shifted dramatically, and he found himself in what he recognized as the academy training ground, wondering what he was supposed to do. Suddenly, he saw someone being thrown into the air and landing hard, making him question what had just happened. It was the past version of himself being beaten by another student, realizing the scene was showing his experience during a month-end assessment. His past self was then violently struck. The vision continued with his past self defeated on the ground, Han Yu-gil taunting, "No way. Are you already done? Tsk. So weak. It's no fun. Observing this, Jungmin wondered why the dungeon was showing him this particular situation. The past scene continued with one bully remarking he thought the department head would scold them, but a month had passed with no repercussions. The other bully scoffed, "Scold you?" and suggested that for beating up a parasite like Jungmin, he should be rewarded, mockingly asking about a parasite killing reward. Jungmin, watching this, looked distressed as a large screen displayed A from the Department of Academic Affairs. It informed him he had 4 days left of his permitted leave and faced automatic expulsion if he exceeded it. "Damn it!" he exclaimed, having thought he was good to go. As his hand clenched, a system message stated that the dungeon was detecting his fear, followed by that the dungeon was bringing back the person he feared in the past. A shadowy figure then appeared, taunting, "Hey, weakling!" Jungmin, with a determined look, realized something as another system message announced, "Initiating trial." The shadowy figure fully materialized into Han Yugel, one of the bullies from his past, who remarked, "It's been a while," and condescendingly added, "To have a chance of sparring against the written exam's top ranker, isn't this an honor?" Jungmin understood then that the dungeon had projected his past to make him fight Han Yugel. Overwhelmed, he thought, even if he got stronger, this is too much for him. 22 Han Yugel chuckles at the thought of fighting a weakling in the first round, warning Jungmin not to waste energy resisting and to just let himself be beaten. Jungmin cursed under his breath, shocked that this was the trial and that he had to fight that bastard again. Yugel taunted him, calling him a weakling and a disgrace to the academy. However, he consulted himself that there was no need to be scared, as it was just an illusion created by the dungeon. Jungmin tried to calm himself, remembering this was Han Yugel from 2 years ago. Believing himself to be stronger now, Jungmin thought he could win this time, and as a signal sounded for the fight to begin, Yugel lunged. Jungmin managed to block the attack, much to Yugel's surprise. Jungmin silently called Yugel a stupid bastard, as Yugel remarked that Jungmin seemed to have grown a spine. Yugel scoffed, questioning if analyzing his attack pattern would change anything and calling Jungmin an idiot. Jungmin retorted that he was glad Yugel was the same bastard he knew, as now he could beat him without hesitation, and then invoked his immersion skill, blue energy flaring around him. Just as Jungmin prepared to unleash his power, a system warning flashed. "Immersion is restricted." Jungmin cried out in disbelief, questioning what restricted meant. Seizing the opening, Yugel struck Jungmin, asking if he really thought he could win, then decided to play along, launching a tornado swing followed by an anaconda kick. Yugel continued his assault with a head-bashing attack, sending Jungmin reeling. "What now, pipsqueak? Are you already done?" Yugel taunted, adding that things had just started to get interesting. Seeing Jungmin down, Yugel mockingly asked if he was already knocked out, deeming it a shame to end it so soon and demanding more fun. Observing from somewhere beyond, Eden mused that this wasn't like Jungmin, questioning if he was truly letting such a lowly bastard beat him and remarking that this wasn't the Han Jungmin he used to know. As the beating continued, Jungmin despaired, thinking that in the end, the same things were happening again and that without his unique skill, he was nobody. He questioned if he could ever overcome Yugel. Suddenly, Prina's voice interjected, "Hey, what are you doing?" which Jungmin momentarily mistook for Adon's. A vision of Adon then appeared, expressing his shame and disappointment, stating he didn't know Jungmin was someone who would give up so easily. He questioned where the determination of the man who came back from death in his tower had gone, asking if this was just Jungmin's trauma. Eden's voice continued, finding it surprising that Jungmin would begin to crawl after just a couple of hits, especially since it was merely an illusion. Jungmin told him to shut up, claiming Aiden didn't know how hard it was for him. But then Jungmin admitted to himself that Aiden was right. He had hated himself for conforming to reality and had created the ideal of the hero who never gives up because he wanted to be like that. With renewed determination, Jungmin got up. He called out Aiden's name, then definitely told him to just wait, vowing to end this soon. Yugel laughed, asking if Jungmin had gone mad and urging him to finish it quickly. Han Yugel declared he still had a lot more to offer and attacked Jungmin, but was hit by him instead, Jungmin now finally standing again. Aiden's voice asked if he had finally woken up, to which Jungmin affirmed, stating he was finally in his right mind. Enraged by his attack, Yugel called him a bastard and questioned how he dared. Yugel threatened that just because he played along a little, it didn't mean Jungmin could handle him, vowing to make him crawl out half-retarded. Han Yugel then activated Stealth Sprint, moving with incredible speed and striking Jungmin, who cried out in pain. Panting, Jungmin noted he couldn't detect Yugel's presence at all. Yugel taunted Jungmin to try and hit him again if he can before disappearing again. Jungmin recognized this as an Academy's advanced skill. Jungmin then activated his detection skill. With this, he successfully sensed Yugel's incoming attack and blocked it, shocking Yugel, who wondered how his skill could be ineffective against such a weakling. He retorted and countered, trying to strike Jungmin. Jungmin stated that while Yugel's tactics might have worked 2 years ago, now things were different, as he prepared a powerful energy attack. Yugel cursed as Jungmin unleashed the attack, demanding to know what Jungmin was. Overwhelmed by the strong energy emanating from the weakling, Yugel screamed in pain as the attack engulfed him. Defeated, Yugel lay on the ground, weakly asking Jungmin what he was and where he got such strength. Jungmin calmly replied, "It's quite simple. I'm just not afraid of you anymore." Standing confidently, a system message declared that from now on, Han Yugel would be afraid of Jungmin subconsciously, followed by another message that the dungeon has been cleared successfully. Later, after some days, as Jungmin decided to go back, his mother called out for him to visit often, lest they forget his face, to which Jungmin cheerfully agreed. He thought to himself that things went well. It was a good thing he came home because he was able to beat up Han Yugel, even if it was just an illusion, and he also managed to stop a dungeon break. He quickly hopped on the bus and returned back. At the training room, which Baeom-jun created for him, and decided to check the rewards for the path of choices. He accepted, surprised to find the reward was his own novel, The Age of Destruction setting. The system explained it was a lowest class noble phantasm, growth type, that would allow him to retrieve information from the novel, supplying it directly to his brain, but only the original author could read it. However, another notification stated that his qualification isn't enough to unlock all functions, causing him to exclaim in frustration, wondering why functions were locked if he was the author. Despite this, Jungmin mused that being able to read his book again would be helpful when he couldn't remember content. As he looked at his laptop, Chae Yuna suddenly appeared, asking what he was looking at. To her, the laptop only displayed a black screen. Startled, Jungmin jumped back, exclaiming her name and questioning why she was there, as she should be at the academy. Yuna cheerfully announced that she had also dropped out. Jungmin, shocked, called her crazy. On the other hand, Yuna asked why he was mad when she was the one who dropped out. He argued about the advantages of graduating and her doing so well, but their argument was interrupted by Taemin asking why they were fighting again. Taemin then revealed he had also dropped out, much to Jungmin's disbelief. Yuna, excited, said it was cool they could study together and prepare for the adventurer test, adding that Mr. said they could use the training room. Jungmin corrected her, saying Baeom-jun preferred to be called Master, and that Yuna might be scolded for calling him Mr., though Yuna recalled him saying anything would be fine. Taemin agreed that the Mr. was a really nice man, and that Taemin misunderstood him. Yuna then mentioned the man also allowed them to plan their own training and had complimented their robust foundation. Jungmin, however, fumed silently at this, thinking, "What? That old man?" While outwardly, Taemin encouraged him to train hard with them. Jungmin then asked where their master was. Meanwhile, at the Adventurer Association Forensic Department, Baeom-jun was informed that they had nabbed another bastard, drawing a magic circle. He sighed, noting there were so many of them and that this one was also mumbling about the advent of the devil. He observed several images of magic circles, remarking there were too many to ignore as a minor occult. He recognized the symbol as the same one engraved on the body of the attacker from the dungeon, and noted these symbols were all around the city, recalling the demand to hand over the 8th hero. He pondered the connection between the eighth hero, the devil, the seven new towers, and this group, deciding he needed to look into it and instructed his subordinate to continue their work. Elsewhere, in an artifact department store, Jungmin considered what equipment to buy with the money he earned from a potion. He was approached by Jong Jiwon, scouter team leader of the Heavenly Mansion Guild, who congratulated him on his reawakening, mentioning it was their first meeting since offering him the analyst position. Jungmin, realizing Yuna must have informed him, greeted Jiwon. Jiwon mentioned hearing Jungmin was taking good care of Yuna, but Jungmin humbly replied that she was the one taking care of him, finding it hard to get used to her being a guild leader's daughter. Jiwon then said he heard they were applying for the adventurer license and offered Jungmin a spot in their guild. Jungmin politely declined, stating he'd feel too pressured to join a place related to his friend. Jiwon accepted his decision, saying he had a schedule and took his leave. As Jiwon walked away, Aiden's voice asked Jungmin what exceptional qualities Jiwon saw in him to want to scout him. Jungmin, with a smirk, declared it was obvious. "I am a genius." Aedon retorted that all geniuses would die after hearing that and sighed that he shouldn't have asked. Unseen by Jungmin, Jiwon suddenly stumbled in the elevator, clutching his chest, exclaiming, "Impossible!" System messages indicated his unique ability, the Eye of Truth, had been overused. He was affected by fear and had been overpowered by his target's immense legacy and blessing. Jiwon realized his skill couldn't even get close and that he was bounced off before he could even judge Jungmin's skills. Something that had never happened before, not even when he was in the gym with Mr. Choi Beom-jun. He wondered if Mr. Beom-jun knew about the strong energy emanating from Han Jungmin and resolved that things would change quickly and he had to get close to Jungmin no matter what. Back with Jungmin, he was pretending to be on a call while Prina commented that he couldn't use any of the many potions he'd bought. Jungmin explained they would be useful in dungeons, and he was just getting ready in advance. Suddenly, a system message announced. The original author of the story has detected an object having Everton's energy. Startled, Jungmin wondered what those bastards were trying to do now, and decided he had to use detection in a nearby alley, questioning if the place was safe enough. He activated the Academy's advanced skill detection, and system messages confirmed the skill's effect and range had increased due to his hero's mana, passive. He scanned the department store, clearing the 5th floor. Then the system alerted him that the original author of the story had found an object with a mark of follower. He zoomed in, locating it in basement 1. He recognized it as the mark of Everton. Aiden asked how he knew it, and Jungmin fucked up, stammered. He saw it in the book, but Aiden doesn't remember. Prina dismissed that as not the problem and reminded him he knew how to use divine power, offering to teach him how to make holy water, and started blabbering. Jungmin, however, knew how, recalling that Everton's magic circle was mostly used for summoning a devil and could only be erased by holy water. Fortunately, he had emergency water in his dimension bracelet. Aiden questioned why he was getting water. Jungmin thought it was great he could make holy water without immersion, and as he concentrated, the magic circle on the wall disappeared. Relieved, he knew he shouldn't be, and decided to check for other magic circles. His hero's mana helped expand his senses, and the noble phantasm began searching for similar marks. The system then reported the number of magic circles detected within a 1-kilometer radius, 172. Jungmin was shocked, wondering how many magic circles were in the entire city, if there were so many just within 1 kilometer. Or later, in a shadowy location, figures discussed about Jungmin, noting he was erasing magic circles on his own and questioning if they should stop him. One mused if the guy they met was the 8th hero, recalling being told the 8th hero would be a hindrance and should be removed before it was too late, and observing that, just as predicted, the 8th hero kept interfering. Another figure judged that since Jungmin easily removed the first seed, he must be a divine power user and thus should be eradicated. However, they acknowledged that right now, they couldn't even get close to him. A subordinate, Nobo-1, offered to take care of it if given the order, but the leader declined, stating there was no need for a useless sacrifice and that it was impossible for Jungmin to erase all the magic circles himself. Besides, if a seed was in danger, the Apostle of God would react to protect it. Meanwhile, Jungmin stretched, complaining about his back and the crazy Everton bastards for creating so many magic circles. He knew that with the circles present, a seed of the curse must be somewhere around too, but despaired at finding it when he couldn't even erase all the circles. He recalled that to summon a demon, both magic circles and a seed of the curse were needed, and if the seed was planted on a human with mana as a vessel, the demon would be born there. The problem was finding it, as divine power needed to be used directly. He decided to ask his master for help erasing the circles, and while they were at it, find the person with the seed. He texted his master, got a reply if he was almost there, and replied that he was in a coffee shop, and Beomjun told him that he would be there soon. Just then, a voice called out, "Boss?" and Jungmin looked up, surprised to see Saren, exclaiming her name and confirming it was really her. She asked how he was feeling and when he was discharged from the hospital. He replied it hadn't been long and asked how she knew he was there. She explained she saw her outside the window, and she offered to buy him a drink to commemorate their meeting. Jungmin declined, saying he had to leave soon. Suddenly, a strong, ominous pulse emanated from Saren. Jungmin, startled, thought he heard 2 heartbeats, and a system warning appeared. An abnormal flow of mana has been detected by the original author of the story. He wondered if it was another curse, like what happened to Yuna. He asked to borrow Saren's hand, saying there was something he wanted to check. As he took her hand, she yelped. "Oh!" Confused, Saren asked what that was, doubting it was a static charge. A system message then confirmed the original author of the story has detected the seed of the curse. Jungmin realized he'd found it and that Saren had reacted to his divine power. He wondered when it happened, perhaps during the Academy dungeon visit, which meant there was already enough time for the seed to stabilize. He consulted his book, which informed him that the seed of curse had stages, low, intermediate, high, and a demon itself would be summoned when the high stage was reached. Fortunately, he noted, it was still incomplete and hadn't stuck to Saren's mana core yet, making removal possible and easier than expected. He thought it would have been a difficult battle if a demon was already summoned, cursing the Everton bastards. He told Saren to get hurt just once more and promised to buy her something delicious next time. Confused, she asked what he was planning. Jungmin, determined to end it before the seed stabilized further, prepared to immerse Michael Condor. However, just as he was about to act, a red-clad figure with glowing eyes declared, "That won't do," and shattered the coffee shop window with a powerful attack. Prina and Aiden's voice asked Jungmin if he was all right, and he confirmed he was, but wondered about the timing. The attacker demanded to know who Jungmin was and what he was doing. The figure then taunted Jungmin for trying to interrupt their plan again and lunged, yelling, "Why don't you just die here?" Jungmin noted his speed. The attacker's blow was intercepted by a powerful golden blast. Jungmin exclaimed, "Master," as Beomjun said, "You son of a bitch," and angrily demands how the attacker dared mess with his apprentice. Jungmin asked when he arrived, and Beomjun explained his work finished earlier than expected and asked if Jungmin was hurt. Jungmin assured him he was fine. Beomjun then told Jungmin to go somewhere safe as he would take care of the attacker. The attacker Amol laughed mockingly, "Take care of me?" and his neck audibly cracked back into place. Beomjun, shocked, thought Amol's neck was broken and wondered how he was still alive. Amol, stating that was too harsh and an ordinary S-class would have died, introduced himself as Apostle Amol, who serves Satan, and sarcastically said, "Nice to meet you." Beomjun called him a bastard and asked if he was another demon fanatic. Amol warned him not to think of him as an ordinary priest, claiming to be an apostle who received a great blessing from their great god, who, unlike their gods, answers their prayers. He then announced that time was up, and it was time to start the party. Every circle in the city started glowing, and the system message appeared. The 1048 magic circles prepared in advance are resonating simultaneously. Beomjun, alarmed, questioned the immense energy. Jungmin was shocked that there were still that many magic circles left. Jungmin cursed, realizing Apostle Amol was just wasting their time and decided he had to at least remove some seeds. However, when he turned, Saren had disappeared. Frantically looking around, he spotted her suspended in a vortex of red energy and yelled her name. Amol, observing Jungmin and Saren, asked if Jungmin knew what demons liked the most, then answered his own question. Fear. Humans fear, that is. Across the city, red energy of light shot into the sky, causing panic among the citizens. People wondered what was happening to the sky and what the red energy was, some suggesting they should run. A child asked their mother what the lights were, just as a large, dark hole opened in the sky above them, from which monstrous tentacles emerged, causing widespread screaming. These tentacles began to envelop people, and Jungmin realized it was taking souls from those without mana. He knew Saren would become a demon if all those souls were absorbed into her, and resolved to get rid of the seed in her as soon as possible. Amol, however, warned him not to do anything stupid. Amol declared it was too late, that everything was done and ready, and there was nothing Jungmin could do. He proclaimed that soon a demon would descend into this world as Saren was further engulfed by dark, shadowy tendrils. Baeomjun, furious, yelled at Amol, "What the fuck are you saying, you piece of shit?" he asked. "What demon?" Yelling why he was still acting like a moron after aging so much and accusing him of reading some nerdy-ass novel. Jungmin, recognizing the insult, shouted inside, "It's my novel!" Amol, unimpressed, told Baeomjun he was quite eager to meet an early death and challenged him to fight back with any hidden powers if he still had them. Baeomjun retorted, "How do you know? Anyway, there's no need for all that," and struck Amol with a powerful blow. Amol was sent flying, and Jungmin, seeing an opportunity, thought it was unexpected, but his master got Amol away from Saren. He decided to use this moment to get rid of the seed. However, before he could even do anything, the overwhelming smell of decay fills the air, accompanied by a thick, black fog surrounding the area. His mind races, recalling the words from his novel, "The moment a demon is born." The reek of decaying corpses and blood, once only imagined, is now reality. He finds himself standing in the exact scene he wrote about, with the demon's first appearance freezing him in place. As he turns around, his eyes lock onto a sight that chills him to the core. It's Saren, but a more mature and demonized version of her, staring him down menacingly, completely devoid of emotion. The realization hits him hard. This is his fault. He wrote the novel, and now he must face the consequences of his creation. Desperately, he tries to call out to Saren, but her response is cold and unrecognizing. Her eyes are distant, and her voice sounds like two pieces of metal scraping against each other, exactly as he had described the demon in his novel. The pain of seeing his once caring boss in this form is unbearable. He realizes with growing despair that this transformation is irreversible, and what once was Saren is now a demon beyond saving. As memories of the cheerful Saren, who always watched out for him, flood his mind, young Min contemplates the impossible decision before him. He may have to kill her to stop the demon from causing more harm. Tears fall as he comes to the painful conclusion that he must take down the demon to prevent further casualties. With a determined yet heavy heart, he calls forth his immersion, the divine mana flowing into him. The surge of power causes the demonized Saren to flinch as the mana stings her, just as it had before. In an instant, she finds herself trapped within a holy barrier, where she will now be judged in the name of God. The priest Young Min immersed into earlier steps forward, activating the judgment, and holy light pours through her body. Those rays of light bring unbearable agony to demon Saren, who screams at the top of her lungs and thrashes wildly as the divine spell tears through her. The spell targets the demon-possessing Saren, a desperate attempt by Jungmin to save the version of her everyone once loved. In the name of God, she has been judged. The demonic energy within her howls in torment. Her mutated body convulses violently. Moved to tears, Jungmin bleeds from his nose as he sacrifices a dear friend for the greater good. The process halts abruptly. A thick smokescreen clouds the area as Jungmin offers his heartfelt apologies to Saren. As the dust begins to settle, a shadowy figure emerges, one that snatches away his final chance to save her. The demon survives the spell, untouched but furious. Enduring the pain, she regains her footing and directs her wrath at her former boss, who had just subjected her to excruciating torment. Hesitation is alien to her. She lunges with a sudden grabbing motion at Jungmin, leaving him no time to react. Still dazed from the failure of his divine spell, he is swept into an explosion powerful enough to divert Beomjun's attention from his fight with Amol. Alarmed by the possibility of the kids being harmed, Beomjun turns away from Amol, unaware that one of those kids is now the anti-life demon responsible for the blast. Amol seizes the moment to launch a sneak attack. His mistake lies in literally warning Beomjun that he's about to suffer brain damage, giving the seasoned adventurer enough time to dodge and retaliate with a devastating big boot to Amol's face. Using the sheer force of his kick like a hydraulic press, Beomjun drives Amol's head deep into the ground. After several seconds of relentless stomping, he finally lifts his foot, irritated by how long it took. Unbeknownst to him, the apostle has already healed his broken neck. With his face still buried in the dirt, Amol grips Beomjun's foot with superhuman strength and, with a demonic glare, issues a grim warning. The fight isn't over. Meanwhile, back at Jungmin and Siren's battle, the boy lies face down in a shallow crater from Siren's explosive strike. Towering over him, she stands exhausted while Jungmin, drained and broken, has nothing left to keep fighting. The thought of losing his innocent friend to a demonic ritual saddens him so deeply that he begins to regret ever writing this novel. If he hadn't, Saren and the civilians whose souls were drained might still be alive. Desperately, he pleads for Saren to return, hoping his voice might reach her through the demonic shell. To his surprise, Jungmin's emotional appeal actually works. Saren manages to gain partial control over the demon's body and calls out to him. This unexpected turn stuns even Jungmin, the author himself, as he had firmly established that no one could return after becoming a demon. Yet here she was, the good half of Saren shedding a tear as she called for help, halting the demon side in its tracks. A few moments earlier, when Jungmin cast that divine spell on demon Saren, the real Saren found herself freed in a cold, eerie void, completely alone. Struggling to breathe and overwhelmed with exhaustion, she feels the pain of everything that led her to this point. She remembers being at the cafe, then the attack by Amol. Everything after that is blank, which only heightens her anxiety. Suddenly, a cry for help echoes through the silence. She turns sharply and sees hundreds of civilians trapped in glass cages, all screaming and banging to be freed. The sheer number of imprisoned souls and the freezing atmosphere make Saren wonder if she's been cast into a frozen version of hell. Hearing their pleas, her inner adventurer sparks to life, and she tries to give them hope by attempting a rescue. But a massive hand descends from the sky, clutching the caged civilians one by one. She can't quite understand what she's looking at, but it's clearly a menacing force. Acting on instinct, Saren calls upon her unique ability, Ice World, to freeze the monstrous claw mid-motion. The freezing magic forces it to release the trapped civilians, allowing them to land safely on the ground. Relieved her efforts worked, she braces herself for another move. Before she can act, another claw catches her off guard, striking her squarely in the back and launching her into the distance. Her shirt shatters, and a sharp, burning pain surges through her wounded spine. She crumples. The agony is immense, worsened by her total lack of understanding of where she is or what she's facing. Lost and overwhelmed, Saren begins to cry as she struggles to rise. One of the claws swells in size and barrels toward her, clearly intent on crushing or capturing her. She closes her eyes, resigned to her fate, until a literal ray of hope breaks through the frozen hell from above. It is the divine light of judgment cast by Jungmin onto demon Saren, and it obliterates the monstrous claw before it can turn her into human custard. She looks toward the light with relief, though tears continue to stream down her cheeks. As she focuses on it, she hears a familiar voice calling out to her, a voice she holds dear, begging her to return. A massive crack splits the walls of hell, and through it appears a silhouette, her boss, Jungmin, reaching out a hand to her. Without hesitation, Saren stretches toward the hand she's longed for. Her tears no longer stem from fear, but from joy, as she complains about the hell being too cold and how she can't save all these people by herself. She crawls toward the silent silhouette, shouting for help with absolute trust, praying her voice reaches him so he might come and save them all. Back in reality, Jungmin is still stunned that Saren retains her consciousness at all. Even after becoming a demon, her brief return disrupts the demon's control, causing it to lose grip on the other souls temporarily. Through the demonic shell, he witnesses the chilling truth behind a summoning. The lost souls scream for help, submerged in hellfire and bound by chains. It's a horror even he had never imagined, something he never wrote into the novel. The demon inside Saren finally regains control after a short internal struggle, shoving Saren back into unconsciousness by covering the exposed part of her face. With her influence buried, the demon resumes its grim feast. Beneath the creature's terrifying shriek, Saren uses her last flicker of awareness to resist the darkness, pleading once more for her boss's help as they battle for control. Jungmin notices a golden light gleaming through a crack in the demon's claw. It reminds him of the divine power from earlier, back when Saren flinched as he tried to grab her hand. That trace of divine power had lingered inside her and shielded her from complete destruction when the demon took over. It resurfaced when he attacked the demon with Michael Condor earlier. With this realization, he prepares to launch the same attack again. What he doesn't know is that, according to every trope in existence, the spell won't work until a key emotional hurdle is cleared by the power of friendship. Still, he charges forward with it, only for the immersion to flop spectacularly due to one glaring issue: no mana. For someone who's been granted perks on perks ever since his novel got adapted into a tower, his chronic mana shortage is a constant source of frustration for everyone, including himself, but not for the demon. She finds it amusing that her meal won't fight back due to his mana shortage. With Saren's voice silenced for good, the demon flashes the most grotesque smile her nature can muster. Jungmin drops to his knees, furious with himself for malfunctioning at such a critical moment. That's when the power of friendship decides to intervene. Prena hands over a portion of her power, restoring his depleted mana. There's no logical reason why she'd do this, and though Jungmin briefly questions it, he wisely moves on after a second. With mana restored, he activates immersion once more and summons Michael Condor. The angel doesn't waste a second. He starts chanting even before stepping out of the Golden Cross chamber. As he emerges, he fires a divine beam directly through the evil spirit and the demon marked for judgment. Realistically, the demon had about 3 full working days to dodge the beam, but unfortunately, not every villain moves like they're in Dragon Ball Z. The attack lands squarely, piercing the demon's body. Evil energy gushes out as the divine light floods in, and with it, Saren's memories begin spilling into the air. Jungmin watches in stunned silence as her experiences come to life. Despite her fear and transformation, Saren had still fought to protect those imprisoned beside her. She never stopped being an adventurer. Moved by her heroism, he drops his guard, just enough for the demonic energy to seize the opportunity and pull him in too. Moments later, he awakens in the same icy hell where Saren had been trapped. He looks up and sees her in the clutches of a skeletal claw being dragged into the sky. Thinking fast, he sprints forward, shouting her name in desperation. Just as she begins to stir, he leaps with every ounce of strength he has, stretching out to grab her hand. This act becomes the catalyst that activates the lingering divine energy within Saren. The glow ignites all around her, even surprising her as it builds in intensity. The divine power crashes down upon the demon, violently separating it from Saren. She falls away, unconscious but peaceful, while the demon lets out an agonized scream. Its form begins to bubble and melt as it struggles to stay intact. But there's no stopping the collapse. With Saren's real body free at last, the demon breaks apart completely, releasing the souls of the civilians it had consumed. Their scattered spirits float across the city. Jungmin, relieved that his plan succeeded, rushes to check on Saren. He places a finger beneath her nose and confirms she's breathing steadily, just unconscious. A few feet away, however, lies a massive, swirling blob of evil energy, the demon's final remnants without a physical host. Jungmin keeps mentally calling it ugly, a thought the demon apparently picks up on. Offended, it demands its body back, but of course receives no answer. With no body and no sympathy, the demon opts for pure rage, launching itself at Jungmin, clearly intent on devouring him or possibly hijacking his body, if only to escape the relentless ugly accusation. It comes within millimeters of Jungmin, who stands frozen, eyes shut, bracing for the end. Fortunately for him, he has the power of friendship on his side. Yuna bursts onto the scene at the last second, blasting the demon blob with a surge of electricity from her hand. The impact sends the creature flying, erupting in a small explosion that blankets the area in smoke. Striking a heroic pose, she turns toward the stunned Jungmin and, with a confident smile, asks if she arrived too late, though she clearly knows the answer. Yuna's sudden entrance turns what could have been the end into round 2. Jungmin can't help but wonder how she managed to appear precisely when he needed a miracle. She casually explains that she followed the trail of spirits flying across the city, each one returning to its rightful body. Without missing a beat, she demands a status update, as if red skies, demonic chaos, and soul storms were normal occurrences. Noticing Saren lying unconscious a few steps away, Yuna drops her guard in concern. The demon sees its opportunity and lunges at her for revenge. But Yuna reacts instantly. She activates her unique ability, the speed with which she calculates dimensional interference, crosses a singularity, applies property transformation, and transmits waves to materialize her coordinates is ridiculous. Her counterattack slices the demon clean in half. She admits the demon's ambush startled her, yet still managed to execute a complex technique in under a second. However, to her surprise, the demon doesn't stay down. Not only does it survive, but it also regenerates rapidly, swelling in size as its gooey form reconstitutes. While Yuna stares baffled, Jungmin deduces that the demon is using mana to regenerate. What's needed, he figures, is a powerful enough attack to disintegrate it faster than it can recover. The problem? Finding someone who can produce that kind of force. At first, the demon seems unfazed, but even it can't deny the disadvantage of lacking a physical vessel. That regret hits hard. It actually sheds a tear over its own helplessness. Desperate, it scans the battlefield until its eyes land on Amol, still engaged in his fight with Beom-jun. Ignoring the fact that they were allies moments ago, the demon wastes no time. It lunges forward and swallows Amol whole, aiming to claim his powerful body for itself. It succeeds, leaving Amol with nothing but a consuming void as his final sight before being erased. Beom-jun watches in disgust as the demon devours its own ally and wonders what it could possibly gain from such a vile act. The answer comes quickly. The demon mutates into a monstrous, 20-meter-tall abomination, looking like something that crawled out from under your bed after years of resentment. Unfazed by its size, Beom-jun immediately charges up his unique skill, determined to end this nightmare once and for all. He's actually glad the demon is huge, because the lightning-type mana he inherited from Zeus, yes, the god of thunder himself, is specifically built to slay giants with one hit. The demon, however, is a different kind of beast. It welcomes the attack like it's about to feast on gourmet cuisine. Undeterred, Beom-jun forms a high-voltage energy ball overhead, mocking the creature for assuming it could ever devour him. Both sides launch their attacks simultaneously, resulting in another earth-shaking explosion. The clash lasts longer than expected, too long in fact, as if the demon is absorbing Beom-jun's lightning spear astrayed. Jungmin watches in awe at the scale of Beom-jun's power, but dread settles in quickly. He worries that the demon might have just snacked on the entire attack like a protein bar. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happens. The demon emerges unscathed, looking even stronger than before, and lunges at Beom-jun for another bite. But before it can reach him, one of its limbs suddenly explodes. Even Beom-jun is caught off guard, wondering how it happened without any direct contact. That's when Jungmin puts it together. The detonation is caused by Beom-jun's mana being too powerful for the demon to handle. With the right touch, they could turn the demon into a walking fireworks show. Wasting no time, he turns to Yuna and tells her to prepare her strongest fire spell, instructing her to fire it the moment he signals. Yuna agrees without hesitation, instantly prepping the spell. Jungmin briefly thanked whatever higher power made the Academy's top student his friend. With that handled, he activates the magic bracelet on his wrist to summon the most likely noble phantasm from his novel's lore, the power system tailored for Jungmin. He mentally sifts through the novel, narrowing 284 skills down to 130, then to 24, and finally selecting the most effective one for the situation. A complete, step-by-step guide for using the skill beams into his brain, surprisingly easy to follow. The skill Jungmin prepares to use is one of Michael's greatest masterpieces, Harmony of Power. With only 30% mana left in his tank, he knows that pushing himself further could very well lead to his death. But at this point, it's become a given. Stealing himself, he readies the skill and signals Yuna to fire. At the exact moment he's ready, she launches the spell, urging Beomjun to get out of the blast radius. The demon is consumed by massive flames, its entire body engulfed as it writhes in agony. As it struggles, Jungmin chants the purification spell to sanctify the demon's soul of greed. The combination of flames, purification, and Beomjun's godly lightning attack creates a devastating explosion. The shockwave forms a massive crater, and the demon can only scream in helplessness as its life force is obliterated. Yuna, watching in disbelief, is more astounded by the immense power Jungmin just unleashed than by the sight of the demon disintegrating. The demon's cries for mercy echo as it passes away, its curse finally cleansed and its mind shattered. Yet Jungmin's immersion is interrupted once again, this time not by his own choice, but by force. Beomjun, worried for his student, rushes over, expecting to find him collapsed. To his surprise, Jungmin responds in an affirmative tone, seemingly fine despite having used such a powerful attack. Rather than asking how Jungmin could still be standing, Beomjun's concern turns into curiosity about why his body hasn't given out. Even though Jungmin has used immersion 3 times in quick succession, he's still intact. Yuna, too, is confused by the reaction from the two, but they both agree that it's better to keep these strange occurrences to themselves, lest they burden those around them. Just as the group exhales in relief, Beomjun sees something impossible. Jungmin starts glitching, like a broken image on a screen. Before they can process what's happening, he completely vanishes, leaving only the faintest trace behind. Yuna and Beomjun are left in stunned silence, calling out his name in vain as he disappears from existence. Elsewhere, Eden watches, his suspicions growing stronger. He realizes that Jungmin's ability to exorcise the demon by merging his mana with divine power can only be the result of one of Prena's specific skills, a feat only achievable by someone with an intimate connection to it. Aiden's growing doubts about Jungmin deepen, especially after witnessing his unimaginable ability to transform a demon back into a human, something that had seemed impossible until now. Jungmin may have pulled off the impossible, but the toll it's taken on his body is immense. Despite this, he stands before Beomjun and Idan without a scratch, leaving both of them stunned. Beomjun and Idan stare at him in disbelief. This is the same person who's been on the brink of death every time he used his abilities, yet somehow he's still standing. Idan is so taken aback by this that he turns to Prena for answers. Without hesitation, he demands to know why she decided to save Jungmin at the last moment. Prena, with her usual confidence, explains that her decision was in everyone's best interest, including Edan's, since the last thing he would want is Jungmin dead. Adan, still processing her words, wonders what she's truly implying. Prena, seizing the opportunity, reminds him that he chose to send Jungmin to the tower's 2nd floor rather than deal with the looming event himself. Adan, ever the proud one, tells her to tread carefully as if she's walking on thin ice, signaling that he doesn't wish to discuss this matter any further. But Prena, ever persistent, presses him to confront his concerns about the mysterious 2nd floor. She mentions someone deliberately making the 1st floor near impossible to clear just to ensure no one could reach the 2nd floor, but leaves out their name, implying a silent threat as if naming them would summon a curse. The situation is different now, though. Jungmin's survival and triumph over the 1st floor prove his worth in Prena's eyes, making him the one capable of facing the 2nd floor's trials. This only agitates Aiden further, his frustration evident as he makes it clear he doesn't want to think about it anymore. Yet, despite his resistance, Prena's arguments break through his ego. Finally, he relents, deciding to send an invite for Jungmin to enter the 2nd floor. In an instant, Idan raises his hand, and the invitation is sent. Meanwhile, in an entirely different setting, a Jungmin picks up a loaf of bread that looks as if it's been left out for over 100 years. He eagerly turns to his sister, excitedly requesting that she have a bite of the moldy, mutated bread. Without hesitation, she smiles and nods, approving of its consumption as though it were the safest, most delectable food in the world. The two siblings decide to share the food for lunch, but before they can take a bite, the sister notices a disturbance behind them. A burst of blue light flashes intensely in the room, making them cower in fear as they clutch each other tightly. Through the smoke steps a confused Jungmin who stares at the equally shocked siblings. He raises his head to survey his surroundings, only to realize he's now in a completely different, much older rural area than where he was moments ago. A system notification pops up, informing him that he's in the rotted ghetto, located on the tower's second floor. The name itself is a clear warning, making it obvious that entry is not welcome. Jungmin has arrived here because he's no ordinary person. He's the main character. The sister instinctively grabs her brother in a protective manner and confronts the strange man who appeared out of nowhere. Noticing their wariness, the system displays information about the siblings. The boy, Jack, is 11 years old and a side character, defined by stark contrasts in his nature, either virtuous or completely wicked. His talent is imitation, which aligns with his current state of cautious excitement at the mysterious man's sudden appearance. Leah, the 15-year-old sister, shares the same traits and talent, but reacts more rationally to the stranger, cautious and suspicious. Upon learning about them, Jungmin identifies them as people connected to Idan. Just as his thoughts begin to form, his stomach growls from hunger. Jack, pure-hearted, offers him some of his meager food, while Leah tries to warn him. Jungmin accepts and sits down with them, still pondering the awkwardness of the situation regarding Aiden. As he brings the food close to his mouth, unsure if he can even digest it, he immediately spits it out like a fountain when the system reveals that it's molded moss tea, which only causes him mild food poisoning. Desperately trying to rid his tongue of the taste, Jungmin calls it a health hazard, which makes Jack, disappointed, ask him not to waste it. Jack starts crying when he sees the last bit of their collected water go to waste, while Leah vents her frustration at Jungmin. Apologizing for the mishap, Jungmin compensates them by presenting the most tender steaks, cooked right from the pan. The siblings' reactions are different. Jack eagerly anticipates the steak, while Leah is surprised to see him pull meat from his bracelet. Despite the heat, the two quickly start devouring the steaks without hesitation, much to Jungmin's surprise. He reassures them that there's no need to rush, as he has more in the bag. Leah, trying to be polite and considerate, refers to Jungmin as Mr. and invites him to join them. However, all he takes from this is the fact that he's been called Mr., despite still being just a university student. He then points to the loaf of bread, which looks like something radioactive, and firmly tells the kids never to eat it again. He quickly shifts the conversation to their living conditions, considering the dilapidated state of their surroundings. They mention another person who used to be there, which piqued his curiosity. Jungmin wonders if they are talking about Edon, but Jack mentions someone named Pebble, who occasionally comes by to play with them. This name rings a bell in Jungmin's mind, but upon noticing his reaction, Leah grows suspicious and questions his motives for asking about it. He tries to deflect, claiming it's simply out of concern and that they should focus on eating. Though Jungmin has good intentions, his nervous expression as he leaves for a restroom break only fuels their suspicions. As he walks away with a growling stomach, the kids continue to eat, glaring at him. Once out of earshot, he whispers to Eden, asking to be let out of the second floor. Though he's grateful for the opportunity, his reasons lie in the well-being of Saren and the others who fought in the battle. Eden hears him but chooses to ignore the request, which frustrates Jungmin. Both he and Edan know the second floor is not a place for him to attack, but yet Edan coldly denies his request. Confused and upset, Jungmin falls to the floor and whines about how unfair the situation is, especially from Beomjun and Yunan's perspective. They saw him disappear without explanation. He curses Edan for making such a drastic decision without consulting him, but his rant is cut short when a group of primitive-looking people surrounds him in a circle, their expressions filled with anger. One of them steps forward and demands to know if he is working with Jack and Leah. Surrounded by a group of primitive-looking, armed individuals who are clearly hostile about his association with Leah and Jack, Jungmin finds himself in yet another unwanted predicament. The rundown bunch is obviously suspicious of a well-dressed Jungmin who appeared out of nowhere and spoke to the children. Noticing the desperate makeshift weapons in their hands, He deduces they're out for blood and aren't taking any chances, even involving the elderly, whose shaking hands reveal their fear, though they're still ready to fight. What baffles Jungmin, however, is that he thought the original episode of The Tower ended with Edan leaving the town. Now, as the author, he has to contend with whatever fanfic the system has thrown at him for the second time since gaining his powers. Jungmin realizes he's in a situation beyond his control. Even when he knew what was coming, he couldn't prevent it. An unexpected claim erupts from one of the attackers. Leah and Jack are murderers of his son. Confused and unable to comprehend how that could be true, Jungmin tries to calm the aggressor, but his efforts are in vain. Just then, Leah appears behind him, concerned about why her chef is being attacked by the locals. Her appearance only fuels the attackers' fury, and they immediately target her, intent on killing her. Jungmin desperately tries to shield her. Ganging up on a 15-year-old seems like overkill, but these enraged lunatics are blinded by their fury. Leah cowers in fear, and Jungmin struggles to fight back, bumping into people to throw them off their attack. He manages to knock down the one leading the charge and immediately apologizes, not wanting further confrontation. But his apology only escalates the situation, and the attackers turn on him with even more violence. Realizing he's made things worse, Jungmin retreats to position himself between Leah and the attackers. He proposes talking things out without violence, but his credibility has plummeted after knocking down their leader, and now they refuse to listen. The second floor's objective is finally revealed. The test's difficulty is rated medium-high, and the goal is to find the main threat and eliminate it to earn a vaguely defined reward. Failure will result in permanent residence on this floor. Before Jungmin can focus on the main threat, he first needs to deal with the immediate problem: these hostile locals. Leah clings to his arm, tears streaming down her face as she fears for her life. Jungmin, confused, assumes the test considers her the threat that must be eliminated. However, despite the odds, he has enough reasons to spare her. Edan wouldn't go down this route, despite his arrogant exterior. A glass bottle is thrown his way, striking him square in the face. The shards cut through his skin, instantly drawing blood. Leah holds him tightly, horrified as she sees him bleeding. Jungmin struggles to endure the pain, but the wild locals don't relent. They rush at him and the siblings with intent to kill. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, a member of the group steps forward, locking his elderly companion's arm in a hold to try and calm her down. Aiden watches the unfolding scene, his anger rising as he notices the unexpected interference. It turns out that the person stepping in is Pabel, the man who occasionally plays with Leah and Jack. The locals question his reasons for defending what they consider a monster, but Pabel simply tries to make them understand that mere children are incapable of the bloodshed they've found in their home. Jungmin, still shielding Leah, wonders why someone from the tower is helping him. The system immediately provides the answer. Pabel is a 25-year-old blacksmith, virtuous in nature and highly skilled in weapon crafting and dismantling. Currently, he takes a cautious stance, clearly nervous and wary. Jungmin recalls how Pabel had cared for Leah and Jack after Eden's sudden departure in the original novel. The confrontation between the wild locals and Jungmin comes to a halt as the day drifts on. Later, he finds himself sitting across from Pabel, discussing the events of the day. After exchanging pleasantries, Jungmin asks about the situation, and Pabel explains that the locals' belief stems from superstition. Jack and Leah are seen as monsters due to the many bodies found at their house. Pabel adds that being the only survivors has painted a target on them, though he has another suspect in mind. The suspect, surprisingly, is Eden, the one who had lived with the children but left suddenly. Eden, eavesdropping on the conversation, jumps up in fury, finding the accusations ridiculous. His intense reaction is so loud that it nearly causes Jungmin's head to explode from the noise. Seeing Jungmin's pain, Pabel asks if he's all right. Jungmin brushes it off, trying to ignore his frustration with Eden's sudden outburst. Despite this, he remains upset by Eden's reaction. As Pabel prepares to leave, he wishes Jungmin and the kids well, and Jungmin reciprocates the sentiment. Eden, still furious at Pabel for framing him for the murders, is shut down by Jungmin for being too aggressive. Once things calm down, Jungmin turns to Eden, addressing the accusations made by Pabel. He acknowledges that this is all a misunderstanding, but speculates that Edan's decision to bring him to the second floor of the tower. Aiden initially didn't say anything, however, later accepted that this is the main reason. He ran into them during his adventure, and ever since then they ate, slept, and played together like a little family. Jungmin states that he also remembers pretty well and adds that rather Pabel is the suspicious one for blaming someone so easily. Eden at first supports Jungmin's statement, but then recalls that just now Jungmin said he also remembers, but Eden never told his past to him. Then he remembered what Prina said about him being qualified. Jungmin indeed cleared the first floor, but not as a normal clear, but as a hidden clear. Eden reflects on inviting Jungmin to the second floor out of sheer curiosity, pondering if Jungmin is the one they are searching for. Just after he thinks this, he startles him by calling out, "Hey, Jungmin!" Visibly surprised, Jungmin tries to deflect, saying he's going to sleep and they can talk tomorrow. Aiden, however, confronts him directly, demanding, "Who are you?" and questioning how Jungmin talks as if he knows everything. Flustered, Jungmin laughs awkwardly, asking, "Ah, aha, ha," before wondering if he actually said something revealing. Sweating nervously, Jungmin attempts to backtrack, claiming ignorance about what Aiden is referring to and asking again if he truly said anything, while internally realizing he's fucked up since Aiden is already suspicious. Aiden merely stares intently in silence before the scene shifts to a wider view of their location. Later, Jungmin wakes up in the morning, but actually he stayed up all night, internally screaming in frustration and agonizing over what to tell Aiden. He considers revealing the truth, but quickly dismisses it, thinking that since he scripted Eden's painful life, Aiden would kill him if he knew. Before anything could have happened, someone calls out, "Hey, old man?" It was Leah, asking what's wrong and if he's okay. Jungmin assures her he's fine, asking if he was too loud and telling her she can sleep more. She insists she's fine and thanks him for helping them the day before, which Jungmin brushes off as nothing. Leah adds she was worried because he was grunting all night, making her think he was sick. Jungmin internally notes she called him old man again. He announces he'll take a quick walk, prompting Leah to grab his sleeve anxiously and ask if he'll return. He reassures her he just needs fresh air, promises to come back, and pats her head affectionately. As he departs, Jungmin reflects that Leah has opened up to him. He remembers creating these kids as a test for Idan, now viewing them simply as little cuties. Outside, he encounters Pabel, who asks where he's going. Jungmin explains he's going for a walk and finds Pabel carrying food for the kids, though he internally acknowledges it's rotten. Jungmin then offers fresh food that he just pulled from his bracelet, urging him to take it, and gave it to the kids instead of those rotten foods. After Pabel accepts, Jungmin states he'll leave the kids in Pabel's care and pointedly instructs him to throw away the food Pabel had brought, and Pabel agrees. After Pabel wishes him safety, Eden's demanding voice seems to echo, asking if Jungmin didn't hear him yesterday, and insisting he must kill the kids to escape the second floor. Jungmin reacts with outrage, "Hell no," appalled at how casually Eden suggests killing them, calling him cold-blooded. Eden retorts that he's merely offering advice. Troubled by Eden's personality, Jungmin ponders why Eden is so impatient and finds the quest peculiar. Searching for clues, he has a sudden realization. Maybe Eden is still mistaken in believing the kids need to be eliminated. A flashback plunges into Eden's past, showing him as an 11-year-old running with a girl, his sister, Emily. She cries out in pain, having sprained her ankle and unable to run. Hearing pursuers nearby shouting about finding footprints, Eden panics about needing to run while Emily is injured. Emily bravely tells him to leave her, but Edon vehemently refuses, telling her not to give up and preparing to carry her. As she reaches out to him, a sudden rockslide engulfs her. Eden cries out her name in horror. He overhears the pursuers confirming their target is dead. Seeing them, Eden knows he must get Emily out, but immediately realizes the futility, thinking she couldn't possibly be alive under the rocks. He screams in anguish, apologizing to Emily for failing to protect her. Another flashback shows Eden, seemingly slightly older, as a thief stealing bread and being chased through a town. Pursuers shout, "Thief! Get him!" He dodges and fights back against two men who try to block his path, taunting them to catch him if they can. He taunts his two pursuers, daring them to catch him as he flees. Despite their shouts for him to stop and calls to get him, the boy defiantly yells, "Never." His eyes glow red with determination before he finds himself cornered because in front of him was a tall wall. One of the chasers expresses frustration but quickly spots him again, declaring, "You are done for," and lunging with a stomp. Eden, however, proves surprisingly agile, leaping away from the attack and just so high that he was able to grab the top of the wall. His pursuers react with shock, one asking, "What?" while the other questions if he's a monkey. Eden, on the other hand, pleads his case, stating he only took one bread because he has to live too, but he is grabbed forcefully. The captor calls him a little shit and demands to know how much he's stolen. Before then, the captor throw him from the top of that wall. Lying injured and unable to move, Aiden thinks about the pain and calls for help while his two attackers begin brutally kicking and stomping him, yelling, "Die!" Passersby notice the commotion, with some suggesting they should intervene as the boy is likely to be killed. Just then, a figure in a black hat arrives, demanding to know what is happening and shouting for them to stop. The beating ceases, and the injured Eden notices, weakly wondering, "Who?" before losing consciousness. Later, finding the surroundings too loud, he awakens in a bed, confused about his location. "Huh? Where am I?" Surrounded by concerned children who excitedly exclaim that he's awake. Still disoriented and looking at his bandaged state, he asks where he is. A child informs him this is the Hope Orphanage and that Masha saved him, asking if he remembers. The boy processes the word orphanage. Masha, the purple-haired figure who saved him, approaches kindly, asking if he's okay and inviting him to join them for a meal. Eden reacts violently, throwing a pillow at her face and accusing her of being a witch, associated with someone called Everton, asking if she thinks he'll fall for her act. Other children immediately defend Masha, calling the boy an ungrateful shit and reminding him she saved him from the beating. He retorts that she tricked them and intends to send them to Everton. Masha attempts to soothe him, mentioning shared trauma from a different orphanage and telling him not to worry. She then calmly states she has nothing to do with Everton, but Eden calls her a liar and demands to know why she brought him there, confused by the gentle smiles on her and the other children's faces. Masha then offers to show him something and leads him outside to a large training ground where numerous individuals are practicing combat with glowing energy. Shocked, Aiden asks what this place is, and Masha explains it's their training grounds. She elaborates that they are training to fight back against Everton, seeking revenge, and reveals that every child there is a victim of Everton. Eden reacts with disbelief and fear, exclaiming, "Revenge? On those monsters? Are you crazy?" He questions how children could possibly fight such opponents, convinced they would die. He yells that they are all crazy. After a moment of silence, Masha quietly states they can't lose any more families, which is why they are trying to fight back. She then adds, and revealing she knows he has been secretly training with a sword, having deduced it from the calluses on his palms. Edun is stunned, asking how she knew. Masha invites him to join them, offering to teach him mana control, which she promises will help him. However, Edun refuses, stating he doesn't need it, and questioning how he can cooperate when he doesn't know them. He tells them to go die by themselves if they wish, and turns to leave, muttering about the fucking orphanage. As he walks away, a cheerful blonde girl calls out, "Hey, you!" confirms his name is Aiden, and welcomes him to their orphanage. Eden insists she's mistaken, and he's only there to retrieve his clothes. Another boy suggests he at least have a meal before leaving. The girl, Rosa objects, saying Eden doesn't deserve anything, but another boy retorts that she was the one who suggested feeding him, leading Rosa to shriek in frustration. Eden repeats that he doesn't need any food, but his gaze is drawn to the appealing meal being offered, and he swallows hard, clearly tempted despite his words. In the end, he left, however, next day, out of nowhere, returned Hervheft. A boy surprised, exclaiming, "Huh! Eden, you're back again!" While another child observes Eden eating hungrily. Rosa, sitting at the table, calls Eden shameless, but suggests that if he plans to return daily for meals, he should just join them or at least wash the dishes, accusingly stating he's only there for the food. Eden curtly tells her to shut up and glances around the room. Rosa teasingly asks if he's looking for Masha, causing Eden to blush and defensively deny it, claiming he was merely wondering where she was since she's usually present. Rosa smirks knowingly as Aiden looks away, flustered. Unbeknownst to them, a guy from Everton just found them. His voice announces, "Found them," just before an explosion shatters a nearby window on the other side Aiden. Startled, he looks outside through the broken frame as another blast occurs, wondering what's happening. A swirling red energy then bursts through the window towards him. Caught off guard, Eden questions what it is. The projectile strikes a glass bottle on a shelf, which surprisingly absorbs the dark energy. Before Eden can fully process this, he recognizes the attack style, realizing the intruders are from Everton. One hooded attacker chides his companion for not going easy, but the other protests that he was told to smash things. The first clarifies they were meant to retrieve a clue, not destroy everything. Realizing the danger, Aiden thinks he needs to escape and regrets coming back. However, as he turns to flee, one of the attackers spots him. Before Eden could flee, he finds Rosa, who has already died, nearby him. The attacker callously notes she's already dead and remarks to his partner that capturing as many children as possible is the priority, dismissing her death as a waste. Eden stares in horror, whispering, "R! Rosa!" and grits his teeth in anguish, realizing she died protecting him. The memory of another child, the girl from his past, dying flashes through Eden's mind. Trembling, he faces the attackers standing over Rosa's body. One notices Eden is still alive and remarks, "Oh, nice." Holding up the bottle now, filled with dark energy captured earlier, he informs Eden he's a valuable experiment subject and cannot die yet. As the attacker orders his subordinate to capture him, launching purple energy tendrils, a voice shouts, "Protect Eden," followed by another crying, "Shield!" A green shield instantly forms, blocking the attack, though the young caster grunts from the impact. The Everton attacker reacts with annoyance, yelling, "These brats!" surprised his spells were blocked. Behind the protective barrier, another boy reassures Eden he's safe now. The lead attacker recognizes the assembled children as runaways from various orphanages under Everton's control, stating he'd wondered where they went. Declaring they won't escape this time, he commands his subordinate to capture them all. The subordinate charges, yelling defiantly. One of the orphanage children, Delrin, instructs his group to attack while another shouts he'll block the enemy assaults, yelling, "Shield expansion!" The green shield intensifies, deflecting blows. Eden watches in awe, thinking it's amazing yet still finding it unbelievable that these children are fighting back against Everton. Another boy angrily demands how they dare invade their orphanage. He retorts that he was waiting for this day and hurls an energy spear, yelling, "Take this!" The lead attacker scoffs at the stupid attempt. The Everton attacks, forcing the lead attacker back with a cry of pain. The guy from Everton, muttering that he can't kill them yet, and angrily questions their resistance before ordering his subordinate to destroy the shield first. The subordinate complies, repeatedly striking the barrier until cracks appear. Aiden watches nervously as Delrin warns that the shield is breaking and they need to run. The lead attacker taunts them, offering their lives if they drop the shield now, but the boy maintaining it struggles, thinking it's over. Delrin cries out that he can't hold it anymore, and as the shield shatters, Eden reflects on how hard they fought, bracing for the end. Delrin calls Eden's name and tells him to wait, transferring the remaining shield energy onto Eden alone. Confused, Eden asks what Delrin will do. Delrin explains the shield is only strong enough for one now, but will last a while. Eden desperately pleads for him to stop, crying out why everyone keeps trying to save him. Delrin simply states that Eden shares their wounds and he doesn't want to see anyone else die, urging him to live. As Eden begs him not to do this, he recalls Rosa's fate, fearing everyone will die. An explosion engulfs Delrin. Overwhelmed by his powerlessness, Eden cries out, "Why am I so weak?" Suddenly, the lead attacker cries out in pain as a powerful purple force repels him, asking how it's possible. Masha appears, her voice cold, stating she doesn't care how they found the place, but they made the mistake of touching her kids. Eden whispers her name in recognition. Masha turns to the injured children, apologizing for her late arrival as purple energy swirls around her. The scene shifts to a graveyard at sunset where Eden kneels before a grave marked with flowers. He sobs, apologizing to Rosa and blaming himself for her death, crying that she died in his place. Masha stands beside him comfortingly. Eden continues to weep, lamenting that he survived only because she sacrificed herself right before his eyes. Still weeping, Eden cries out that someone died protecting him again, all because he is weak. Masha confronts him, asking if he believes he should have died instead, just like Rosa. She tells him resolutely that he must live and become stronger, declaring that the fight will only end when the demon castle is destroyed. Turning to leave, she pauses and extends her hand towards him, proposing, "Let's take revenge, together." Eden stares at her hand, conflicted. He acknowledges that accepting her offer could make him stronger, but the fear of causing more trouble and bringing death to those around him makes him hesitate. Later, Eden is seen alone in a forest, having apparently declined Masha's offer. After chopping some wood, he picks up a sturdy stick and attempts to channel his mana into it, focusing intently before striking it. However, the mana discharge is uncontrolled, and the stick shatters upon impact. Cursing in frustration, Edon grabs another stick and tries again, yelling, "Again!" with each strike, only for the sticks to break repeatedly under the strain of his unstable mana. Two children from the orphanage, a boy with white hair and another with brown hair, observe Eden's frantic training from a distance. The brown-haired boy notes he thought Eden was leaving, while the white-haired boy wonders why Eden insists on training alone instead of learning properly from Masha. The brown-haired boy calls him stubborn. The white-haired boy watches Eden intently, murmuring his name. The brown-haired boy bluntly remarks on Eden's poor mana control, earning a shush from his companion, but expresses concern that Eden might die if he continues recklessly, suggesting they intervene. At that moment, Eden collapses from exhaustion, cursing his inability to keep going before losing consciousness. The two children rush to his side. The brown-haired boy panics, thinking Eden is dead, but the white-haired boy checks and confirms he's still breathing. While unconscious, Eden has fragmented visions, seeming to recognize faces as Zur and Delin, wondering why they are there. His thoughts focus on needing to train and get stronger before a clattering sound and the smell of alcohol intrude, making him wonder what's happening. He awakens to find the brown-haired boy tending to his wounds with alcohol. The boy notices Eden is awake and continues cleaning his injuries. Eden feels a sense of déjà vu, embarrassed to have passed out and been cared for again. The boy explains he removed the bandages because Eden's facial wounds had healed. As he prepares to apply more medicine, cautioning Eden to stay still, Eden flinches at the strong smell. The boy then casually mentions hearing that Eden had helped them before he initially left. Confused, Eden asks what he means. The boy explains that Eden saved them when they were dying. The boy eagerly elaborates, reminding Eden how he saved Anne from a severe stomach wound and helped other children recover too, thanking him sincerely. Eden looks down, murmuring his thanks, but privately feeling guilty, knowing they were injured while protecting him. Just then, Masha enters with the white-haired boy, who gasps upon seeing Eden's face clearly without bandages, exclaiming, "What? You are handsome?" Eden also agrees, because he sure is, and the white-haired boy adds that Eden looks familiar. The brown-haired boy suggests it might just be a resemblance, but the white-haired boy suddenly shouts, "I remember! Emily!" Eden jolts in shock at the name. The brown-haired boy observes the similarity between Eden and the memory of Emily, noting even their names start with E. "Wait," Eden interrupts urgently. "Did you just say Emily?" The child confirms Emily lived with them for a month before Eden arrived and offers to show him a picture. Eden tries to rationalize, thinking it must be a different Emily, as he witnessed his sister's death under falling rocks. The child finds the photo and presents it to Eden. Staring at the image, Eden instantly recognizes the girl. "This is Emily," he confirms, his voice filled with disbelief and hope. "She's alive?" He desperately asks where Emily is now, revealing, "She's my sister." The brown-haired child looks stunned. Masha quietly enters the conversation, addressing Eden by name. With a somber expression, she delivers the devastating news. Emily died a month ago. Eden stares, wide-eyed and speechless, utterly crushed as he whispers, "What?" Stunned, Eden asks Masha to repeat herself, barely processing the words. "Emily is dead." Masha explains that when they first found Emily, her legs were pinned beneath a massive boulder. Despite their efforts to bring her to the orphanage and treat her, necrosis had already set in and spread through her legs, ultimately leading to her death a month prior. Eden trembles, questioning Masha's words as the devastating reality sinks in. He realizes with horror that Emily was still alive when he abandoned her under the rocks. Overcome with guilt, he collapses, whispering, "Ah, I had no clue. Fuck." He cries out in agony, "I left her there to die." Eden grabs his head desperately, trying to deny the truth as a painful memory surfaces. Him telling Emily, "Never give up, we are getting out of this together," when he was the one who ultimately gave up. In the present, he runs from the orphanage calling himself a dumbass, realizing that at that time he just left her to die and ran away. He collapses completely at Emily's grave in the pouring rain, screaming his despair and clawing futilely at the earth. Lost in grief, he sees a vision of Emily smiling brightly, calling him brother and saying she knew he would return. That's why on her grave it was written, "Welcome back. I missed you. I love you, Emily." Sometime later inside the orphanage, Eden falls to his knees before Masha, crying out her name and pleading, "Please help me." Masha rushes to him, concerned, asking what's wrong. Looking up with fierce determination fueled by grief and rage, Eden declares, "Masha, I am going to take revenge. Teach me how to use my mana. Help me so I can kill every single one of those Everton fuckers." He lets out a primal scream, solidifying his resolve. Sometime later, Eden attempts to train, but his mana fizzles uselessly. Masha observes alongside the other children. Now Masha knows that this lack of control is why Eden was hesitant to learn. Another child calls him hopeless, earning a rebuke from his friend. Eden admits to Masha that he seems to have very little mana and training doesn't help, scratching his head in frustration. He asks if she knows how to increase his mana, unaware of the true situation. Masha simply smiles and asks to see his hand. Confused, Eden complies, and as Masha touches his palm, purple energy flows between them. Blushing, he asks what she's doing. Masha instructs him to stay still while she gauges his mana. After concentrating, Masha explains mana capacity using an analogy about alcohol limits, asking if Eden's ever been hungover, to which he replies he's underage. She then begins the assessment, intensifying the energy flow. Masha's eyes widen in shock. Eden asks nervously if his mana level is bad, but Masha shakes her head, stating, "No, it's the opposite." She explains gravely that Eden's mana circuits are completely blocked, preventing mana from flowing through his body like water from a shut-off tap, which is why he couldn't use his abilities. However, the amount of mana contained within him is colossal, almost 1,000 times that of a normal person. The other children gasp in astonishment while Eden stares, dumbfounded. Unable to believe it, Eden excitedly realizes they just need to open his circuits and urges Masha to do it immediately. Masha gently stops him, confirming it's possible, but explaining he was fortunate the circuits were blocked. His body couldn't handle such an immense amount of mana being released at once, comparing it to an overfilled water balloon popping. Therefore, they must proceed slowly, strengthening his body gradually to withstand the power. When Eden asks if she can manage such a delicate process, Masha confidently affirms her ability. Filled with new determination, Eden declares he's prepared. 5 years later, a powerful energy slash cleaves through a forest. Eden, now 17, stands confidently, having just swung a simple wooden sword. A watching child exclaims in awe that Eden sliced a tree with wood. Masha calmly tells them no, instructing them to look behind the tree. Their eyes follow the path of destruction. The slash didn't just cut the tree, but carved a massive trench extending far into the distance, bisecting a mountain on the horizon. The children stare, utterly speechless, one whispering in disbelief, "He split the mountain?" Eden rests the wooden sword on the ground near him, a small, confident smile playing on his lips. Masha then tells Eden to stop showing off before calling everyone over to look at a map. She points out Everton's base, the Demon Castle, located in the middle of the continent. She explains that Everton's worshippers are collecting people's souls as seeds around the castle, intending to sacrifice them to the World Tree Flower, which blooms annually, in order to summon the Great Devil. Therefore, she declares, they must get rid of these seeds spread throughout the country to stop the plan. Considering this, Eden murmurs thoughtfully, "The plan is decided. The protector will take the north, while the marksman and spearman will take the east. Idon volunteers to handle the south and west by himself. Though questioned if this is too much, the other expresses confidence in Idon's ability. They agree to gather in front of the demon castle a year later to take down Everton together, sealing the plan with an okay. 6 months later, Idon is shown holding a glowing red seed, reflecting that it's the last one in this particular village. Having cleared the south of seeds and Everton's followers, with only some remaining in the west, he notes he's finishing earlier than expected and decides to head to the next village. Later, he sold his horse, wishing the horse a better life with a non-Everton owner. Feeling pleased about having money, he decides to get a nice meal. Just then, a young girl with reddish-brown hair approaches, asking if he needs any flowers. And this was Leah. Idon observes her. Noting a resemblance to Emily, he initially asks for one flower, but then changes his mind, deciding to take all of them. The girl is surprised but happy, though she admits the flowers are a bit withered. Idon assures her it doesn't matter, stating he's just trying to help with a light heart. As the girl thanks him profusely, someone snatches Idon's money pouch from behind. Startled, Idon yells for the thief to give it back. He turns around, asks Leah to hold the flower basket for him, but she wasn't there. She vanished. Idon realizes she's gone, and it was all a part of their plan. Furious, Idon confronts the little thieves, while on the other side they were enjoying because they hit a jackpot. However, their joy didn't last that long because as Idon appeared suddenly above them and grabbing the boy. The boy cries out while pleading, "Cease!" Idon tells the boy to shut up and prepare, but the girl intervenes, apologizing profusely and begging for forgiveness. She claims they needed the money for their sick mother and had no choice. Idon, skeptical, asks where their house is, offering to help. The girl reacts nervously, but eventually agrees and leads him there. They arrive at a house where an old woman is lying down. Pointing at the old woman from outside, Lee claims that she is their mother. Idon immediately dismisses the lie, stating it's clearly a grandmother, not their mother. The boy mutters to his sister that he told her it wouldn't work. The girl drops the pretense, demanding Idon give them some of the money back because they are having a hard time too. Idon is flabbergasted. He tells them they should do chores or farm work instead of stealing. But the girl retorts angrily that they don't get paid because they're just kids and that adults screwed them over. So why shouldn't they steal? She insists it's all they can do to stay alive with her brother and tells Eden to just consider himself unlucky. Her words reminded Eden of his past with his sister. He sighs and suggests that if they can survive by themselves, the problem is solved. The girl defensively asks if he's giving them money, to which Edon sharply replies, "No shit!" He clicks his tongue, realizing he still has time before meeting his comrades at the castle and decides he can help them for a while. He warns them that if they get caught stealing from bad people, her brother might get into danger. The girl is startled, asking if he's trying to scare them. Eden replies, "No, I'm trying to help," echoing his earlier sentiment with a light heart. The next scene opens with Eden forcefully waking the sleeping siblings, Lee and Jack, telling the brats to get up. Jack groggily complains about the cold and tries to bargain for more sleep, but Eden insists they rise. Later, while training, Leah struggles with the weight of a practice sword. Eden watches them, thinking they still have a long way to go, and notes that the rendezvous at the Demon Castle is only a month away. And I don't think their practice is going that well. Eden reflects internally that he unfortunately cannot take Jack and Leah with him to the castle, deciding he will return for them after dealing with Everton. He instructs them to stop playing and focus on their practice. Sometime later, Eden returns, calling out that he's back. He finds the siblings hastily tidying up. Leah awkwardly explains they were just cleaning since he returned early. Suspicious, Eden asks why they suddenly decided to clean, correctly guessing they either want a favor or have done something wrong. Leah vehemently denies this, abruptly changing the subject by declaring she's hungry and demanding food. She was actually trying to hide the Everton seed from him. Later, as Eden turns to leave, they ask him if he's headed to the marketplace. He confirms he's going to check on his sword repair at the blacksmith's and sell some items they gathered. Jack pipes up, requesting snacks, specifically the canned fruit they had before. Eden agrees and promises to be back soon. At the blacksmith's shop, Aiden asks the owner if his sword is ready. The blacksmith confirms it is and asks his assistant, Pabel, to bring it. The owner notices Aiden holding a jar of canned fruit as Jack requested. The owner asks if he was selling it. Aiden, however, remarks that he's not, as he intended that specific treat for the kids back home. Pabel then finally brings the sword to Aiden. He was very happy after getting his sword. Later, he left praising them before leaving, mentioning the kids are waiting. Meanwhile, back, Jack is outside in the falling snow, suddenly overcome with distress. He clutches his chest, muttering, "No, no, not again." He saw his hands covered in blood again, and after witnessing this, he ran yelling for his sister. Later, Eden returns, cheerfully holding up the canned fruit. He playfully declares he's the only one who truly cares for them and teasingly tells Jack to kneel if he wants a bite. However, he notices Jack walking away silently and asks where he's going at this time. His expression shifts to alarm as he sees blood dripping from Jack's hand. He calls out Jack's name urgently. Jack turns, finding out Aiden came back because many stores were closed due to the heavy snow. When Eden questions the blood, Jack claims he cut himself while cooking. Eden asks, why was there blood in his hand? He lies, telling him that he just cut himself while cooking, but Eden finds something suspicious, wondering how cooking could cause such a severe wound. Jack insists he was just cutting ingredients. Eden suggests tending to the wound, but Jack quickly stops him, forbidding him from entering the storage area behind him. Eden's eyes narrow with suspicion and enter, sensing something is terribly wrong. Inside the storage area, a horrifying scene unfolds. Lee stands amidst several dead, bloody bodies, holding a blade. Aiden stares in disbelief, uttering her name. His eyes then lock onto a nearby jar filled with pulsing red objects, Everton's seeds. Horrified, Aiden demands to know why the seeds are there and shouts for Leah to get away from them. Abruptly, Leah attacks Eden with a blade. Eden barely manages to parry the attack, shocked that why was she attacking him. Leah presses her attack relentlessly. Eden evades while desperately questioning Jack, demanding to know who gave him the seeds. A terrified Jack stammers that he doesn't know. As Leah continues her frenzied assault, Eden shouts that it's dangerous and urges Jack to run away. Jack remains frozen in fear, muttering repeatedly, I don't know anything, while the possessed Leah continues attacking menacingly at Eden. As Jack remains frozen, repeating, I don't know anything, Aiden desperately yells at him to get out while fending off the possessed Leah's attack. Aiden manages to block her strike and swiftly counters, knocking her unconscious. Panting heavily, he glances at the table, confirming the presence of the jar full of Everton seeds. The horrifying thought dawns on him that Jack and Leah might actually be part of Everton, a possibility he vehemently tries to deny. As he thinks this, he starts choking the fallen Leah. However, unfortunately, Jack lunges at him from behind. Eden wasn't able to dodge the assault, his mind racing. He questions how Everton could have turned them, recalling they seemed perfectly normal just that afternoon. He wonders if they deliberately waited until he was gone, and struggles to understand their motive. Shaking off his confusion, Eden tells himself to stop thinking and focus solely on stopping the possessed siblings. He evades another attack from Jack, realizing with grim determination that more people will die if he doesn't neutralize them immediately. And then a chilling thought crossing his mind. What if they had been tricking him from the very beginning? If Jack and Lee are truly part of Everton, he concludes, he has no choice but to kill them now. Just as Adam prepares for a decisive strike, Leah's possessed eyes flicker, clearing momentarily. She looks in confusion, then towards Eden, murmuring, brother? Eden hesitated, his fist trembling. Lee repeats, B, brother, her voice trembling. Both siblings then appear to snap back to their former selves, looking at Eden with recognition and calling his name fondly. Adam falters, visibly affected by this sudden return to normalcy. Later, outside in the snowy weather, we see Eden waking, and then he falls calling himself a dumbass and questioning why he didn't just kill them. Eden actually didn't kill the both of them, but just chopped off their hands, which was transformed into blades, due to the Everton seed, warning them never to do this again and forbids them from touching such dangerous weapons. adding that he won't let it pass next time. He then destroys the jar of Everton's seeds. In the snowy weather, lying down, he reassures him softly that it's okay now, the seeds and weapon are gone, and everything will be fine, believing they won't repeat their actions. Back in the present, Jungmin told us that these were Edan's past events. He notes how Eden passed out in the snow and was found and treated by others named Prina and Mihail. Jungmin recalls that Prina dealt with the Everton influence, says returning the kids to normal and breaking the mind control, seemingly leading to a happy ending. However, while he was thinking all of this, Eden urges Jungmin to hurry and kill the kids, questioning if he wants to leave the tower he is in. Jungmin tells him to wait, needing time to think. He contemplates the second floor's mission objective: get rid of the ghetto's threat. Jungmin surmises that Eden initially believed Jack and Lie were this threat. However, Lee and Jack's arm has healed. He observes that despite their recovery, murders have continued in the area, indicating the threat persisted even after Eden left and the mind control was broken. Jungmin deduces that Jack and Leah, now free from control, cannot be the true threat. There must be another source. The impatient Eden interrupts again, asking if Jungmin is ignoring him. Sighing, Jungmin agrees he actually was ignoring him. As he turns to leave, however, he senses something amiss. Jungmin focuses, overhearing a nearby group of villagers, the same ones seen earlier at Leah's house. They are angrily plotting, calling the siblings evil kids and resolving to kill them, along with the guy that's with them, referring to Eden, that very night. Realizing the villagers have become murderously unhinged, Jungmin knows he must warn the children. Before he can move, a man confronts him from behind, demanding to know what he's doing there. Jungmin curses his luck. The man attacks without warning, declaring Jungmin must have come seeking death, and strikes him down hard. Standing over the fallen Jungmin, another man says, "There you are," adding menacingly that while the others take care of the kids, Jungmin will die here. The horrifying implication dawns on Jungmin. The mob has already reached the siblings. They got to the kids already? He thinks in panic. No, they are in danger. And Jungmin knows he must reach them before it's too late. As the other villagers surround him, shouting to capture him as he tries to escape, Jungmin fights back fiercely, determined to break through. Jungmin now knows the quest condition. It can only be completed by clearing up Edan's misunderstanding about the siblings. Jungmin manages to evade his attackers and rushes towards the house. Arriving, he finds the place eerily empty, but smells blood. Fearing the worst for Jack and Leah, he calls out their names frantically. He enters to find a gruesome scene. The dead bodies of the villagers from earlier lie strewn across the floor, with Jack and Leah huddled together amidst the carnage. Jack tearfully asks his sister if they did this again, while Leah denies it in distress. Jungmin internally reasons that there's no way these terrified children could be responsible for this massacre. Suddenly, Aiden speaks up, surveying the scene with cold eyes. Seeing the dead villagers and the children, he remarks grimly, "I should have killed them," blames himself for sparing their lives, believing this tragedy is the result of his past mercy. The quest interface prompts Jungmin insistently, "Kill them now." Despite the directive, Jungmin firmly resolves, no. He understands Eden's perspective, but rejects the command, choosing a different path. He reflects on how the situation wasn't truly resolved just because the initial Everton influence was removed, acknowledging Edan's lingering pain and misunderstanding, which he himself failed to grasp earlier. Overcome with empathy, Jungmin approaches the distressed siblings and apologizes sincerely. Lie looks up, calling him Mr. Jungmin observes the children, realizing they must be suffering immensely, committing acts they don't even remember afterward. He declares he has to fix this now, promising Jack and Leah he'll help them stop whatever is happening, and urges them to leave before more people arrive. Confused, the children ask where they are going, questioning leaving their home. Just as Jungmin reiterates they are leaving, a horrified scream pierces the air. The elderly grandmother from before stumbles upon the scene, witnessing the dead villagers, including her own family members, and cries out in anguish, calling the children damned kids. She identifies her dead sons, Aaron and Derek, and then glares hatefully at the children, calling them bastards. Jungmin shields Jack and Leah, recognizing the intense hostility from the grandmother and the returning villagers. He questions if talking can convince them of the children's innocence, knowing it's hard to believe given the circumstances. He attempts to reason with them, stating the kids had nothing to do with the murders and offering to take them away from the town. However, the enraged villagers stated that there is nothing to negotiate anymore, screaming that they'll kill him for defending them. Realizing negotiation is futile, Jungmin prepares for conflict, deciding there's only one way forward. He tells the frightened children he'll create an escape route and instructs them to follow closely, warning that it won't be as easy as last time. He acknowledges that even if it's aggressive, he must get Jack and Lee out safely. Jungmin swiftly engages the hostile villagers, incapacitating them non-lethally with precise strikes, ensuring they are only knocked unconscious. Once the path is clear, he calls for Jack and Leah to come to him, but the grieving grandmother grabs onto Jungmin, calling him and the children demons, and demanding he kill her too. Despite Jungmin's pleas for her to let go, she clings desperately, screaming until Leah cries out in fear. Another village was about to kill them, but Jungmin intercepts his attack, shielding the kids and yelling, "Don't touch the kids!" Realizing he cannot simply run away and leave this unresolved, Jungmin understands he must find a way to prove the children are victims of brainwashing. Jungmin asserts there is a way to uncover the origin of the children's affliction, revealing a vial of holy water. When questioned by Edon, he asks for patience, stating he needs to confirm something while maintaining the children's innocence. However, before he can use the water, another man attacks him again. Jungmin recognizes him as someone he escaped from and knows he must act fast, but drops the vial in the ensuing struggle. The man grabs him, accusing him of murder. But before anything could have happened, Leah again transforms. Her hand transformed into blade again. She kills the man who attacked Jungmin. The terrified grandmother, who screams at the carnage, reinforces her belief that Leah is a murderous monster. Simultaneously, Jack and Lee become hostile again, brandishing weapons. Jungmin retrieves the holy water, realizing he must use it, while Leah tries to attack the grandmother, who screams in pain. Jungmin, however, blocks her attack, preceding her to follow back. He wonders who is controlling the children, doubting it's another Everton follower since Prina supposedly handled that threat. Eden berates him for hesitating despite witnessing the children kill, urging him to eliminate them. Jungmin angrily silences Eden, declaring he will reveal the true controller. He throws the holy water at Jack, who tries to attack him. A dark, parasitic entity begins to emerge from Jack's head. Jungmin grimly confirms the presence of mind control as the grotesque parasite fully manifests. He dodges an attack from the Lee, firmly stating the children are not demons, nor are they the threat mentioned in his quest. He quickly uses the remaining holy water on Leah, forcing her parasite out as well, leaving her dazed. The villagers are stunned, questioning the use of mere water. The panicked villagers to throw objects indiscriminately. Jungmin shouts for them to stop as the parasites fully materialize into mind control bugs. An info panel details their nature as brainwashing parasites used by demon worshippers. Jungmin finds this illogical, as the bugs require a master and the Everton leader is dead. He concludes the true culprit must be nearby. Commanding the bugs to return to their master, they fly towards a figure in the background, Pavel. Jungmin points him out to Edon, revealing Pavel as the hidden threat. Pavel appears shocked as Jungmin confirms he is the origin. Jungmin identifies Pavel, who cared for the children after Eden left, as the final enemy. The villagers defend Pavel, but he calmly reassures them before suddenly killing those closest to him. Sighing, standing amidst fallen bodies, Pavel expresses frustration, lamenting the time spent on Jack and Lee. Consumed by anger, declares his efforts were wasted due to an unexpected interloper who appeared out of nowhere. He then attacks another person, causing panic as villagers flee, crying for help, shouting that Pavel is out of his mind. Pavel approaches them, calling Jack and Leah to his side, but Leah admits he was scaring her. Just then, Jungmin intervenes, stepping between. He demands he stop and leave the kids alone. Pavel scoffs at the term kids, revealing they aren't human, but shapeshifters. They are monsters capable of transforming into anything, including weapons or humans. He questions what Jungmin is protecting, elaborating that it's a monster hiding as a human. Jungmin internally questions how Pabel, supposedly a mere side character, possesses this information and notes his changed demeanor. Pabel cruelly claims the children gained their appearance by devouring the corpses of dead children, prompting the protagonist to shout at Jack and Leah not to listen, insisting Pabel is lying. Visibly distressed, Leah questions Pabel's accusations about eating corpses and killing because they are monsters before crying out loud. Jungmin clarifies that while shapeshifters can transform, they cannot kill by their own will, asserting that she and Jack are human. Pabel dismisses this, stating monsters are still monsters, and attacks Jungmin while mockingly telling them they should be thanking him. Pabel then explains how easily someone could die unnoticed there. He then reveals he found something credible while searching, receiving the memories of that person, which revealed they were shapeshifters, deeming it foolish not to exploit them. Jungmin angrily tells him to shut up. Pabel lunges, questioning Jungmin's anger over mere monsters. This triggers a realization in the protagonist about why his own created character, Prina, was different. She couldn't destroy Everton's mana crystal. He warns Jack and Lee to stay back, explaining internally that touching the mana crystal leaves a stench attracting devils. Declaring Pabel has crossed the line, he vows to end him. Pabel dismisses his words as nonsense and attacks, planning to kill Jungmin and let the children consume the corpse. Jungmin blocks the attack, yelling not to treat the kids like objects. Jungmin then activates Immersion, embodying Vapor Roman, Lightning Spearman, enveloping himself in golden lightning. System messages confirm his increased agility, spear mastery, and lightning power. He recalls Pabel's original abilities as a blacksmith included weapon destruction, which could shatter ordinary swords, but notes Aiden's sword would counter it. Since immersing as Eden isn't feasible, he resolves to fight using Vapor Roman's lightning magic. Pabel is surprised by Jungmin's changed demeanor and speed, finding the lightning-infused spear annoying. He attempts to grab and destroy the spear, but stomped by Jungmin. Realizing the protagonist seemed to predict his move, Pabel stumbles back, frustrated and blaming the weapon for his disadvantage. Jungmin puts the spear behind. He questions if he can win now. Jungmin activates Vapor Roman's lightning magic directly, surprising Pabel before Jungmin ends a powerful direct lightning strike. Following the lightning strike, Jungmin continues his assault, landing several rapid blows on Pabel, who realizes he doesn't have a chance to strike back. Seizing Pabel, Jungmin flips him onto the ground. Still crackling with lightning, Jungmin sits over Pabel, reminding him of his weapon destruction ability, and challenging him to try destroying his fist. However, Pabel chuckles and asks if this changes anything. He yells at the protagonist to get a grip, claiming the others were going to die anyway, and that the only way to survive is by offering souls to those beings. He screams that the children are just tools for him to gain more power. Jungmin looks down, seemingly unimpressed, asking, "That's it?" He states that he knows why Pabel ended up this way, recalling through flashbacks how Pabel, as a mere extra, was always envious of the hero Eden. The protagonist tells Pabel that this envy is exactly what separates him from Eden, declaring, "You're just not the protagonist." Pabel reacts with anger, calling Jungmin a psycho and asking what he's rambling about. While pinned, Pabel tries to reach for a tool nearby, thinking it's his chance. But Jungmin, stating he understands Pabel probably had a rough time too, decides to let him go now, unleashing a powerful blast of lightning directly into Pabel, causing a large explosion. As the smoke clears, Pabel lies twitching and bloody on the ground. Jungmin lifts the red mana crystal from Pabel's body and crushes it, declaring internally that he has finished the second floor's mission and hopes this clears up any misunderstandings about Edon. He then walks away, reflecting internally that all this time he thought it was acceptable for extras in his novel to be sacrificed, but witnessing the horrifying events firsthand made him realize the grim reality. He questions who could have imagined he'd enter his own novel and wonders what the world intends to achieve through it. Just as Leah tearfully calls out, "Mr." Pabel suddenly rises, declaring it's not over yet, surprising Jungmin. Possessed by dark energy, Pabel screams he's going to kill Jungmin and lunges, the brainwashing parasite emerging from him. He yells for Leah to come back as the insect targets her. Jungmin reacts instantly, kicking the insect away. The insect still was able to hit Leah, causing her to stagger as Jack cries out, "Sis!" Pablo, now covered in dark energy and speaking an unintelligible language, raises his hand, looking determined and stating, "It worked." Jungmin shouts her name. Realizing he needs to sprinkle holy water, he does so, yelling, "Get lost!" A bright golden light envelops Leah. Jack exclaims that his Nuna is all sparkly, while Jungmin wonders if the light is what he thinks it is. Leah emerges, transformed into a radiant golden figure. Jack stutters her name, and she responds, calling his name back. Jungmin identifies her state as the awakened body of the doppelganger. The golden light fades, revealing Leah has transformed into the likeness of Eden. Jack excitedly shouts that she changed into Eden Hyung, while the protagonist remarks on how handsome Eden is. Pabel, confused, asks, "Who the hell is that?" The transformed Leah challenges Pabel, asking what he thinks, declares herself the apostle of justice, and swiftly hits Pabel with a sword, sending him flying and knocking out several teeth. Pabel lands hard, stunned. Leah then reverts to her original form, smiling as she walks towards the fallen Pabel. Jungmin notes how many teeth fell out. On the other hand, Jack runs to hug her, exclaiming how cool she was. Leah, slightly flustered, explains she heard Adan Opa's voice. As he embraces her, Jungmin approaches, addressing Leah and asking how she managed to free herself from the brainwashing insect. Leah smiles gently and explains when the brainwashing insect went inside her, she felt fear and began to black out like always, sinking into a watery void. She questioned if she is truly a monster under someone's control, destined to kill for the rest of her life. Just then a voice calls her name, Leah. She recognized it. It was Aden's voice, which told her, "Don't give up. You can do this." Hearing his voice gave her strength, and she reached upwards, returned to consciousness, and was able to shapeshift into Eden. Jack excitedly tells Leah he wants to transform and fight bad guys too, like her. Leah laughs, affirming he can because they are doppelgangers, not humans. She recounts how Eden's words helped her focus and imagine what she wanted to become, which led to her transformation, encouraging Jack to try focusing hard on an image and expressing it. Jack feels it's too complicated, so Leah offers to demonstrate. She concentrates, picturing what she wants to change into, and transforms into a spear. Jack asks if she can show him step by step. Leah tells him to focus and try. Jungmin watches, thinking that while it's easier for Leah since she has awakened, it won't come as naturally for Jack. Jack strains with concentration, and a flash of golden light emanates from him. He successfully transforms into a wooden armor for Jungmin, exclaiming, "It worked!" He asks Jungmin how it looks. Leah chides Jack not to be mean, while Jungmin awkwardly replies, "Yeah, it's nice." He glances at the dead bodies inside, thinking that more importantly, he'll be leaving the tower soon, but is unsure about leaving them there. He asks Jack and Leah if they want to leave, suggesting a nearby village where they could settle down and have a fresh start, acknowledging they won't forget what happened, but could begin anew. However, Leah resolutely states, "No, we're staying here," explaining that although they were brainwashed, they must take responsibility for their actions and will wait there for Eden, telling Jungmin not to worry too much about them. Jungmin accepts their decision, but still wants to help, asking if there's anything he can do for them. Suddenly, the system message announces that he has cleared the second-floor trial. Now he'll be relocated outside the tower. Jungmin reacts with shock, exclaiming, "What? Right away? Wait!" Jack and Leah call out, "Mister," as he yells that he hasn't even said goodbye yet and curses Adan as a fucking psycho before being forcefully transported away. He lands hard outside the tower. Elsewhere, Taemin wonders where Jungmin went, unable to detect his mana, while Yuna cries, worried he's in trouble. Taemin tries to reassure her, confirms this is where Jungmin vanished, and suggests they split up to search. Back where Jungmin landed, he coughs, shouting at Edan for interrupting his goodbye. To his surprise, Jack and Leah appear beside him, looking around frantically, asking where they are and where their home went. Jungmin realizes they must have come with him because they were transformed into the items he was holding, the spear and armor. He tells them to turn back into their human forms. They transform back, immediately panicking, clinging to Jungmin and demanding to know where he brought them. Jungmin sheepishly explains this is where he lives and suggests they come to his place so he can explain, promising they'll meet Eden again someday. Just then, Yuna appears, calls his name, and rushes to hug him tightly, crying and asking where he was and how scared she was. Jungmin apologizes. Taemin arrives, calling Jungmin a punk and lightly punching his shoulder, stating Yuna was worried sick. Jungmin apologizes to both of them. Taemin suggests they all go get something to eat. Later at Jungmin's home, seated around a table, Taemin slams his hand down in shock, exclaiming, "You what? You just came from the horizon-slicing sword tower? So you're the guy who cleared that first floor?" Jungmin confirms, explaining he was suddenly summoned and just got back. Taemin finds the idea of being summoned unheard of. Yuna then asks who the kids are, noticing Jack and Leah eating cookies. Jungmin hesitates, saying he met them in the tower and they're my kids. His friends react with spit takes and shock. Jungmin quickly tried to clarify, but there was nothing to clarify. He introduces Jack and Leah to his friends. They introduce themselves shyly. Yuna and Taemin were immediately charmed, declaring them cute, Yuna hugging them and asking if they wanted to be her younger siblings and if they want ice cream. Jungmin turns to Taemin asking, "What happened to Seren?" But is cut off by another system. Ding! A notification appears, now being summoned to floor 1 of the tower, horizon slicing sword. Jungmin reacts with disbelief, exclaiming, "What? Wait!" as the summoning light envelops him. Yuna asks what's wrong. Jungmin yells for his friends to look after Jack and Leah, promising he'll be right back before vanishing again. He lands painfully in a dark outdoor area, sprawling on the ground and screaming in frustration, "Hey! Why do you keep calling me at the worst time? Let me out now!" As he springs up, insisting he can't leave Jack and Leah, a sharp voice orders, "Shut up!" Jungmin flinches, recognizing the voice. He looks up to see Eden, holding his sword to his throat. Eden then demands, "Spill it. Are you an Everton?" Jungmin internally noting the characteristic scar, jet black hair, crimson eyes, and annoying smug look, realizing this is what Eden looks like as a grown-up. Ski lets out a nervous grin, which infuriates Eden, who questions if Jungmin thinks he's joking around. Eden then unleashes a powerful slash attack with his glowing sword, creating a massive explosion. Jungmin is thrown back by the force, exclaiming, "Wah!" Adon points his sword at Jungmin again, issuing a final warning and repeating his question, "Are you with the Evertons?" Jungmin chuckles nervously, asking incredulously if Adon seriously thinks he's with Everton, like questioning Edon's reasoning and yelling about how Eden nearly got him killed, swinging the sword around. Eden retorts that Jungmin shouldn't try to sneak his way out and demands to know how Jungmin knew about the brainwashing insect if he's not with Evertons. Eden continues, pointing out that Jungmin also knew remarkably detailed things about him, the Tower Master, and even discovered the flaming mana root, something that definitely doesn't exist in Jungmin's world. Jungmin sweats, realizing Eden might actually kill him if he doesn't explain, but also worries Eden might kill him even if he does tell the truth. Meanwhile, Edon internally considers that while he saw Jungmin fight the Everton bastards, there's no way Jungmin could know Jack and Leah's true identities unless he was one of them. However, Eden reasons that even if Jungmin isn't an Everton, he could potentially be utilized, so he needs to make sure. He impatiently asks Jungmin if he's going to take all day. Jungmin begins his explanation, stating that these towers weren't originally on Earth, but started appearing based on mythologies or legends. Inside them, characters from myths manifest, and clearing quests assigned by the Tower Master earns rewards. He reveals to Edon, "You guys were in one of the novels I once read." Edon is taken aback, asking, "We're in a novel?" Jungmin confirms the novel was about Edon and other heroes fighting the great demon, explaining that everything manifested on Earth from the story Towers of the Seven Heroes. He adds that the horizon-slicing sword tower was one of them, and Everton also came into existence simultaneously, concluding that's all he knows for now. Jungmin internally wonders if that was enough, doubting Edon would believe he's a character from a novel. Aiden asks if that means Jungmin has nothing to do with Everton. Jungmin vehemently confirms, exclaiming he feels wronged by the accusation. Internally relieved, Jungmin thinks, "Woo, he believed it." He then clenches his fist, promising Eden that he'll stop Everton so no one falls victim to them anywhere. After a moment of silence, Adon accepts his word but remarks that it won't be easy with Jungmin's current skill level. Jungmin retorts, "You think I don't know that?" Aiden sighs, saying it can't be helped, and tells Jungmin to come to the tower in the near future, promising to fix him up from head to toe before walking away. Later, Eden reflects, "A novel, huh?" He taps his finger, realizing that must be what the deity meant back then. He recalls the deity addressing the 7 heroes, pledging to enter a covenant and transform their tales into reality. Eden muses that, as the deity said, their adventures across the continent are known as the Age of Doom on Earth. He thinks about the other heroes, acknowledging he still feels Jungmin is hiding something, but decides to place his trust in Han Jungmin for now. Prina then laughs, telling Eden she thinks she knows what Jungmin is hiding. When Eden asks what it is, she replies it's just a hunch, but she's sure it'll be okay. Clasping her hands as if praying and stating she senses the same kind of energy from Jungmin as when she prays to the gods. Eden scoffs, asking if she's saying, "That loser's a god," but then dismisses her worry, adding it doesn't matter because there's a chance Jungmin might be the key they've been searching for. Back in Jungmin's room, he flops onto his bed, thinking he managed to convince Eden for now, and that Eden even offered to train him. He acknowledges Eden is right about his current state being too weak to face Everton and resolves to go to Eden's tower soon after checking on Saren. Just then, Yuna calls his name. He looks up as Leah, now with her hair styled in pigtails, proudly presents herself, prompted by Yuna asking, "Isn't she adorable?" Leah excitedly tells Jungmin that Yuna did her hair. Jungmin compliments her, saying she looks great, and notes internally that the kids and his friends became fast friends. He then asks Leah why she calls Yuna Unny, but calls him Mr. Leah bluntly replies, "Because that's what you are," hitting Jungmin pretty hard. Coughing, Jungmin changes the subject, turning to Yuna and asking about Saren, noting she hasn't been picking up his calls. Yuna looks downcast, explaining Saren's is at the rehabilitation center of the Raiders Association. She recovered from her injuries, but isn't interested in meeting anyone. Jungmin looks shocked, but Yuna adds she guesses Saren might see him. Jungmin arrives at the rehabilitation hospital, halts before a door labeled Lee Saren, knocks, and announces he's coming in. Jungmin stands in the doorway of Saren's room at the rehabilitation hospital as rain falls outside. Saren sits by the window, looking somber. Jungmin approaches, offering her a canned drink he brought. Saren initially protests, saying he didn't need to get it for her, but Jungmin insists it's an apology for showing up late. Flustered, Saren tells him not to apologize for that, admitting she was very worried when she heard he suddenly vanished and asks if he's okay. Jungmin, assuring her he's never felt better, before turning the question back to her, asking if everything is okay with her. Saren's expression darkens. After a pause, she confesses honestly that she's really scared. She reveals, tears welling up, that the doctors told her she can't use mana anymore, possibly for the rest of her life. A flashback shows a doctor suggesting analyst jobs after graduation, but Saren reflects that wasn't her dream. Back in the present, she cries, remembering her promise to Jungmin that she'd become a great raider, lamenting that she probably won't be able to keep her word anymore, and wondering what she'll do now. Jungmin listens silently, recalling his own past struggles and thinking about how crushing it can be when a lifelong dream suddenly falls apart. Siren apologizes and asks to be left alone. Surprised, Jungmin squeezes the drink can in his hand before leaving the room. Walking down the empty hospital corridor, Jungmin questions why things ended up like this. He reflects that while his novel opened doors for him to become a raider, for Saren, it tore her dreams apart. He wonders if this is his fault again and how long he will continue posing a threat to other people. Stopping in the hallway, he clenches his fist, slaps his cheeks to snap himself out of it, and resolves to get it together. He vows to ensure he doesn't create any more victims, and to do that, he must master his immersion ability. Jungmin is back in his apartment, slamming his laptop shut and declaring it's time to assess the current situation. Just then, Jack and Leah bound over, asking what he's doing and wanting to play. Sighing about the exhaustion of parenting, Jungmin quickly distracts them with popcorn and suggests they watch Pouchmon while he gets some work done. Opening his laptop again, Jungmin thinks about the information he has. He recalls that Satan, the great demon in the Age of Doom, possesses 6 spiritual abilities, and 6 apostles were endowed with these abilities by Satan. Jungmin realizes he'll probably have to fight these apostles and potentially the great demon himself in the future. He remembers the Everton named Amol claimed to be an apostle of Satan, but was killed by a mere low-ranked demon. Jungmin deduces that if Amol truly possessed the demon's spiritual abilities as a real apostle, he would have been able to command the low-ranked demon to submit. Therefore, Amol must have been a fake apostle. Jungmin concludes that the real apostles are bound to show up soon, and he acknowledges he can't fight them in his present state, considering himself weaker than even a low-ranked demon. He thinks about Eden being the perfect person to train him, but hesitates, picturing Eden's menacing grin and wondering if he truly wants that kind of training. Shaking off the thought, he closes the laptop again, deciding now isn't the time for such considerations and declares he's going to Eden's tower. He asks Jack and Leah if they want to see Eden, and they react with immediate excitement. Elsewhere, in an office, Director Choi tells someone at the door to come in. A young woman with short dark hair, identified as Saint Rachel, Han Sujin, enters cheerfully, greeting him as Mr. Director Choi expresses pleasant surprise, addressing her as Saint Rachel. Sujin greets Director Choi warmly. Crusaders Guildmaster Ben was standing beside her. However, Director Choi then pretends not to have noticed Ben, teasing him to take good care of Sujin. Ben irritably states he doesn't need Choi's advice, prompting Sujin to ask if the 2 grown adults are bickering again. Director Choi thanks Sujin for coming despite her busy schedule, mentioning he had planned to contact her soon. She notices he doesn't look well and asks if something happened. Choi demonstrates the issue by trying to use a little mana, causing pain around his arm. Sujin observes the seriousness and offers to treat him, reminding him she can only alleviate the pain from the damaged mana circuit, not fully restore it. As she heals him with golden light, she asks why he used his mana. Choi downplays it, saying it just hurts, but Sujin insists that's precisely the problem. Once finished, Choi feels much better. Sujin sternly warns him to be careful, comparing his circuits to rusty water hoses, and cautioning that using greater mana could cause them to explode, a situation she couldn't fix. Choi assures her he usually keeps his mana sealed but had a recent emergency. He then changes the subject, mentioning he acquired a new apprentice. Sujin inquires about him. Choi complains about the rude fella vanishing, worrying him sick, only to return, meet a friend, and leave without a proper greeting. Sujin teasingly suggests Choi must really like the apprentice, which he vehemently denies, slamming the table before admitting the apprentice is interesting due to his many secrets, making uncovering them potentially fun. Intrigued, Sujin recalls Choi mentioning a kid in the association with damaged mana circuits. Choi confirms and requests Sujin examine the girl if possible. Sujin readily agrees and asks where she is. The scene returns to Seren's hospital room, where a doctor reviews her chart and asks how she's feeling. Seren sadly replies she's still unable to use any mana and feels she should give up hope. The doctor encourages her not to be too upset, assuring her they will try to find other solutions. As Seren begins to cry, the doctor places a comforting hand on her shoulder, telling her it's okay, she will be just fine, and to trust her. I think something is definitely wrong here.